Let's do an introduction, and then I'll splice this into the beginning of the podcast.
Nice, yeah.
So everybody, this is the very first episode of our new podcast that has no title. Actually, the name is. Oh, actually, we probably can we be friends? Is that
I like
a good
that.
one?
I think we
Yeah.
can
So
be friends.
okay, so we've just been talking for a couple hours. I'm gonna cut this part to the front, so Gage just cut this at the beginning, put it at the beginning. But my name is Gage Morrow, and
My name is Mike Massaro.
yeah, we do stand-up comedy in Connecticut, and we met at an open mic, and we liked talking to each other, so we're like, why
Yeah.
not we do it on a fucking recorded format and make content. So this is our podcast, Can We Be Friends? We're just gonna sit and talk, and we hope you enjoy. We have something to start us off with. I just got my golf club. I just got my driver. It's a one. Don't worry about it. I got my driver regripped today. So that's probably the whitest thing I've done all week, which is
Yeah, no shit.
the premiere of my new favorite segment, whitest thing you've done all week. Mike, please take us away. You're very you're very racially ambiguous. What's the whitest thing that you've done all week?
The whitest thing I've done I work at a law firm. Like,
All right, Mike wins this week. Whitest thing this week.
also
See you next week.
Finished a bottle of Glenlivet 15 in a night
Oh yeah.
while writing on a typewriter. So
Ooh.
if that's not the fucking douchiest, whitest thing you've ever heard of.
I gotta bring my game next time.
Despite my looks.
Yeah, that's actually one I want to talk about too. For anyone listening at home, Mike and I don't really know each other that well, but we liked each other's vibes, and we thought we should get to know each other over a podcast.
Yeah.
So by the way, I don't have any ideas for what we should be naming this thing.
Neither do I.
So
I was going to ask you.
We'll probably figure out what we want in the show. You might hear it at like a titular drop, kind of
That's
like in a
true.
movie when they're like, "We gotta go
Yeah.
up," or we'll like.
The Wikipedia page of the podcast is going to cite to the exact timestamp when
exactly.
we discover the name.
Yeah, the wiki fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that does get brought up a lot. People think you're very
yeah.
racially ambiguous. They don't know how to place
Yeah.
you. They're like Mexican extremist somehow, and they're like,
I tell a lot of stories about this on stage, like I have some ones that didn't make the cut, that are like, I think funnier. Like the first one was like, I went, I grew up in this town called East Haddam. It's in Connecticut Valley, right on the river. And it's like 97% white, like no joke. Like that is the demographic. So I am the fucking like darkest person in the town.
okay.
It's like all my friends growing up, like I was the black kid, even though like that doesn't make any fucking sense. I'm Sicilian, so
Yeah.
like
they gave you the N-word pass. They're like, we,
Yeah.
all us white people, give you the pass.
yeah. I mean, the type of town it was, everybody thought they had an N-word pass,
Yeah. The easy pass for the N-word.
except for me. And
Because
and-
you're like, no, I have some sense about me.
yeah, exactly. I know when to keep my mouth shut. And so that was always kind of interesting and weird. It made me like really kind of comfortable with just like looking the way I do at a young age. But so I went to a doctor in like high school once, this new guy, and he's doing the whole patient intake thing, right? He's like, oh, like here's your weight, here's your height, and he's writing the whole thing out. He's asking me questions about myself. One of the things that was weird was he asked me like, do you have any guns in your home? And I was like, I'm not fucking answering that question. That's a weird question. He goes, as is your right as an American. And he just fucking writes like that. And so the end of the visit, I get like, the printouts they give you of all your shit. And I'm like looking through it and it's got all my info and it says race, African-American / black. And I was like, and I was so confused. I went up to the counter and I was like, hey, I'm not black. And she was just like, she just started laughing, and she was like, "Oh yeah, we'll fix that for you."
She a
like,
black lady?
No,
Oh,
she was.
okay.
It's like 2 towns over.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, it's kind of a radius to those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been confused for another race before. I'm French Canadian, but I've been confused for every other white guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I have a very much you look like my friend. Like
Yeah.
kind of look, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's a very nondescript Neanderthalic, like
Yeah.
brow, broad face.
Yeah.
And they're just like I get like Devons, I have a lot of
Devin,
Garricks, you know
yeah.
what I mean? A lot of Kyles. But yeah, I've never been. I think it's just the beard and the glasses.
yeah.
You always look like one of their friends.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. One time, this is my favorite story. We were I was at a party in college, and I was with my friend Natalia. She's Colombian, and we were talking to like one of her, this girl at this house party who she knew like kinda. I'm not sure how close they were, and she just starts talking about like how much she like viscerally despises white people. Like she's just going on about like
What's her name? Should hit her up.
yeah,
like her.
I'm and like I was just like I was sitting there. I don't give a shit. Like you can fucking think whatever the fuck you want. I don't have any particular affinity for white people or white culture or anything for that matter. I like what I like. Like, but fucking my friend, she just goes, Mike's white, right? And the girl goes, oh, well, you look like a person of color, so you pass.
Wow.
That's literally what she said. And I was like,
so that girl,
all right,
that girl's black, or was she Spanish?
She's black, half black. Yeah.
That's hilarious because I've never heard of like that's some Twilight Zone version of what normally happens.
Yeah.
Which is like there's some mixed kid in the crowd and and they're talking and it's like these guys and it's like you're one of the good ones, right? So
yeah,
it's like no one ever thinks. But
it's weird. It's all how I dress. It's all how I like how
File
I
your taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Like I went to a very diverse high school, right? So like I didn't go to necessarily like a very woodsy area, but I was in a smaller town, Windsor Locks, Connecticut. Shout out.
Okay.
There's an airport there. There's a train station there. It's right on the river. I've always said when I was a kid, I'm like, it's the best town to run away from. Because it's like even if all you have is a couple planks of wood and you got good weather, you
You're
can just
out.
float down to Long Island Sound. I think that's how geography works. I'm not sure, but yeah, I grew up in a smaller town, and I went to like grade school, elementary school, like middle school, like up to like early up to like early middle school. I was in that town, and then I won a lottery for a program at a magnet school in Hartford. At the time it was called the Greater Hartford Academy of Math and Science, or GAMAS for short. And it was a CREC school, which I'm sure you've seen, like Two Rivers and all that shit. Ours was a math and science school, and it was like an experimental, like full-time program for middle schoolers. So they were starting to build out now the program goes all the way down to like 6th grade. It started at 7th grade, but we were the first year to be 7th.
Oh, no shit.
The first graduating class from that program, from that school structure, was a class of like 8 people. Because it was like specifically math and science, you know what I mean? And what would happen is you'd have people from other public schools in the area get bussed in for half days. So they would study their humanities and like their basic shit over in their school, and then they would come to us specifically for our math and our science.
Interesting.
To get like advanced programs, because like there was like we had state funding for like advanced science shit. So we took placement tests when we went to that school.
Yep.
This part of the story is just me bragging about how smart I am. But the second part of the story is that it's a very diverse school. Like as a magnet school, they pull from all parts of the most undiverse state of Connecticut. And but they had a requirement by like the passing of laws for like charter schools and magnet schools.
Yeah.
The point of a magnet school was like to reverse the busing programs of like the 80s and the 90s, where they would bus in kids from the inner city and bring them to like suburban neighborhoods. And then you'd always have like those Hartford kids. Like we always had those Hartford kids in our class. Yeah. And you're just like making it so much easier for these kids to be racist, because they're like, you don't even live here. You take the buses in. You know what I mean? It's it's so tough. The magnet school, we're all bussed in. And the people who lived in Hartford had like a majority, I think it was like a majority slot in the lottery system. They've since moved our campus to fucking farm country, so I don't know how that worked out. But it was, by the nature of the school, it was like super fucking diverse, which is why I was always like attracted to people of color.
Okay.
For like all my crushes were black girls, like Spanish girls, like all that. But like,
so you're around at the time.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you like develop.
Yeah.
But then I only ever dated white girls, because every time I tried hitting on a black girl, I had no fucking game. So it's like I just got shot down, and like it was so hard. And I think that's why I like got into comedy, because I developed like roasting, and I developed like jokes to try to like get in with people who were like constantly busting balls and shit. But ultimately, I was never confused for any other race. But it's like I also went out into the world in like my small town where they were so ignorant, and like then I could start to discern like who was what. I was like, oh, that's like that person's Dominican, and like, oh, I thought they were just Spanish. I'm like, yeah, but it's like a specific thing. Like I started learning specific shit, like Nigerian versus like Sudanese, and like Indian versus Pakistani and
You got
all that
really
stuff.
good at categorizing people by race.
Yeah,
on
I know.
first sight.
This was for my own personal research,
Yeah.
mind you. I would have studied this anyways in an all-white neighborhood, but dude, that's crazy. I was
You
watching
have a
like
Norwegian jawline.
yeah, no, but like I can tell if someone's Korean, and I know that sounds fucked up, but like I know like when I see someone, I'm like, oh, it looks pretty Korean. Like I can. Because I have like, because also if you want to talk about real racism and like separating communities, Asians are mad fucking racist. They
Oh
like
my God,
did a good
yeah.
job separating themselves. Like, but it's hilarious because they all immigrate here to the United States, and then we're all like, you're all Chinese, right? We're just like, no, we hate the Chinese for thousands of years. Yeah, you're Chinese, though, right?
Yeah.
But
You
yeah.
got that law, the Chinese Exclusion Act.
But then like at the end of my high school, I got a scholarship to study in Germany for my
That's
senior
really
year,
cool.
and then
Where
I
in
got
Germany
there.
were you studying?
I studied all over the place because I had difficulties with my family. Please don't watch this. No, so I had a temporary host family placement first in Hanover, which is like in the north of Germany. Mind you, I didn't know German when I went there,
Okay.
and this program was started to reintegrate the governments of Germany and America after the like fallout of World War II, and after they restructured their government.
Oh shit.
So they try to reconnect like political by like basically hostage negotiation. They're like, you can have 50 of our kids, and then we'll have 50 of your kids, and then don't do some dumb shit because we have your Germans and we have your Americans. But no, it's really cool. It's funded by both governments, and it's politically based. So I met. Well, Congress was out of session at the time, but we go to D.C. first, and we meet. We were supposed to meet our Congress people, like from the states, because it was like 50 students from all over the United States, and so we go to meet our independent and then when at the end of our trip when we were in Germany, we actually met Angela Merkel, and we were in Parliament. Yeah. We didn't. Only
crap.
One of us out of the 50 actually got to physically meet her, and it was
you guys were like at the
but we were. There's a huge picture of us. We're from all over the states, and we all were in the same room, and she spoke to us. She gave us like a speech.
That's super cool.
Yeah, and at that point, I knew what she was saying.
Yeah.
Like it took me like months to learn German, but like.
You learned it there.
Yeah, I learned it there. I learned how to count before we landed in Berlin, or before we landed in Frankfurt. Like that was I was like.
What is it? I don't even know.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can't look like
I
this.
love
and keep
your
counting.
German accent. It's hilarious. Yeah, dude. You look like a doctor
no.
that they just pulled out of like a fucking Nazi lab, and you're dragging you to the fucking trials.
Yeah, 999. Yeah, no, I mean, they wouldn't drag me. They would drag me right to NASA to help us land Neil Armstrong on the moon, dude. You know what's good with fucking Project Paperclip.
I'm glad to be
This
here
guy
with
knows.
Warner von Braun.
Yeah.
Like,
hangs the 5 slowest Jews every week.
Jesus
That's what he did.
Christ.
Werner von Braun. Walt Disney made a movie about this guy, and he
adoration film.
Yeah,
right?
not like a couple years prior was he hanging Jewish slaves for being too slow at his rocket factory in Germany.
Oh my god.
All because we wanted to beat the Soviets.
Yeah.
So it's like we just gave the Germans another reason to like beat them, even though the winter kicked their fucking kraut ass. But you know what's great though is I love history too. I love I'm reading a book on like the history of the East, like Silk Roads and like Middle East and like the development of the Islamic nation and things like that. And by the way, Islam was started as like a violent pyramid scheme, and it's hilarious. They literally I didn't know this. This is a fun little anecdote that I learned. By the way, don't blame me. Blame The Silk Roads: A New History by Scott Frankopan, I think it is.
Go after Scott Frankopan. Cancel that motherfucker.
I'll lend you the book because I can see you're a very
I want to read that.
literary-minded guy. No, but the way Islam started was it started from a tribe that Muhammad was part of, like the Muhammad.
Yeah.
He went into a cave and had these revelations.
Yeah.
And created basically like stories and like professions from God. And I'm totally gonna get beheaded for this video, but he, I can't wait to see it. ISIS,
strong start. Strong. That's okay. I got it.
I know, right? Can you
ISIS, ISIS, relax.
I don't want a fatwa on me. I don't want the Ayatollah to put a fatwa on me. But this is for sure gonna get flagged. But I'll cut it out. I won't.
Fuck it.
But no, so his tribe, right? They started to conquer. I don't know the exact, I don't remember the exact ways it started up, but they started to conquer throughout the Middle East. There's just villages and tribes, not really much structure to that. So they started to like, almost like Alexander the Great, just start to conquer and embolden. But the way that they grew their numbers was basically a pyramid scheme. They said, if you help us sack this city or this village, you get a percentage of the profit from what we loot. And if you had converted to our belief structure early on, you get an increased percentage of the loot.
That
So
explains so much. It's multi-level marketing.
It
That's why they get
is.
so many. That's amazing.
It's the Kate Spade of religion. It's the Avon lady. It's the Tupperware party. They were just having a violent
Yeah.
Tupperware party.
Could you imagine if your Mary Kay lady killed you if you didn't buy a fucking
Yeah.
set of cosmetics?
Now, mind you, just fucking just a makeup night. No, but
Yeah.
like this is
you
my
buy this palette.
this is my oversized like or oversimplified version of what actually happened, but that's how they encouraged people. And also like reading the book too, it's like you realize Christianity is like super Asian
Yeah.
because it started in the Middle East. Like we say
Mhm.
Middle East, but it's like East is part of like the Asiatic continent. But Christianity was like in Jerusalem. Like Jesus shouldn't have been white, obviously, but like
Should have looked like me.
yeah, exactly. A lot like yeah.
Yeah, it literally would have looked like me.
Yeah,
If he
but
lived at his parents' beach house.
but like there's like Christian artifacts like deep into like Mongolia and China, because as the Silk Road was built out from Asia, Christianity like had a backdraft, and like
Yeah,
like religion travels along trade routes back then
makes
because
sense.
that's how you transfer ideas. But
Dude, I heard this cool story while I was over there. Like,
yeah, exactly. Dude, this guy's named Jesus Christ. He's kind of fucking sick, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like he hung from a cross because he's just that dope.
yeah.
But like, well, to wrap this part up, like from my perspective, is like, what was interesting is that at a certain point, like Judaism, Christianity, these weren't religions. They were just cults.
yeah.
Because the people that they were based on were still alive or just freshly dead. Rest in peace, JC. But like, pour one out for the
Yeah,
homie. But body of Christ, blood of Christ. No, but like,
Power of Christ.
power of
compels
Christ.
you.
Yeah, exactly. But these were just cults. Like the Jews
Yeah.
were persecuted throughout history. Like at this point, like can we stop? Like they're kind of the oldest religion ever.
Yeah.
But back then it's like rulers chose which religion their subjects would follow based on war. Like Christianity was so offensive back then because it promoted forgiveness and like mercy
Mhm.
and equality, and like the highest power is a singular God, instead of the pagan like fuck everybody, let's
Yep.
go to war.
Yeah.
It was like get married, be monogamous, settle down, and be peaceful, which was very
Absolutely.
anti-war. That's not how you conquer a nation. That's how you settle down. You know, like Rome wanted to fuck, and Christianity wanted to settle down and try to like cuff their
Yeah.
citizens.
Yeah. Right.
And no, so
Let's grow. Let's do some agriculture.
guys, let's like-
fucking
yeah,
let's get
exactly.
this population up. Make love,
Yeah.
peace.
So no, I just thought it was interesting because they would have to convince. Back then, like there's no god, there's gods and stuff like that. They're so used to the paganism, so it's like you had to convince a ruler that it's like you have to follow our religion, and if you do, then like the grace of God will be on your side,
Yeah.
and your enemies will go to hell. But it's like if you choose the wrong religion, you choose the wrong God, then you're not favored in battle.
You fucked.
So
yeah.
you need someone to convince you. You need to have like a prophet or like a scholar convince you. So I thought it was interesting because I got a point. Like
What's his face? Constantine carrying the Christian symbol, the
Yeah,
flag
exactly.
in a battle. Like, yeah, because
And-
he had a dream, you know.
and yeah,
like,
and he made that, and so that's why Christianity was European.
Yep.
That's why it became European. But it was basically just a cult of 12 dudes walking around like, bro, our
Yeah.
skinny friend that got hung up by all these fucking politicians. He was a cool guy, and he said some real dope shit.
peaceful anarchist. Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah.
Like, yeah, man, it's just love and peace or whatever, man.
What I love about, like, I mean, like the like early Christianity stuff was like the fucking the incredible, like I don't know, I've read a little bit about like just some of the crazy ritualistic stuff that like they did and how much it's been sort of toned down and monotonized through like the European, you know, like institutionalization of it.
Yeah.
And just like they just found this church like I think a couple months ago in the Middle East, and it was like an early Christian temple, and they found like burnt cannabis on the altar. They found like and like all that stuff is definitely part of the ancient tradition that doesn't get, you know.
Oh yeah, like for instance, Rastafarianism is a sect of Christianity that studies the Book of Solomon because he was the wise king, and they smoke cannabis because their legend goes that cannabis grew from the tomb of King Solomon, which, however they define that makes it like the connection between you and God, and that's how you become enlightened. That's how you become smarter and like more wise. And so Rastas like are, you know, they left modernity and like European colonization to go into the woods and smoke weed and find God. You know, it's very Christian, you know what I mean? Like separate yourself. But I don't know, man. I fuck with history. History's fucking dope, but it's like history also repeats itself like a motherfucker. Like
It's fucking crazy.
I
Nobody
learned-
fucking
Dude.
everyone like loves to say that
yeah.
and then not realize when it's like playing out in
Dude.
front of them.
I when I watched the movie Indiana Jones, which was the one where he had a flashback in the beginning where his dad was fucking
That's not Temple,
James
is it?
Bond Crusade, where he was like, that's how he got his whip. It showed how he got his whip. Where he was in like the train car with the lion.
Is that fucking? I don't remember, man.
But anyways,
it's been a while.
Dude, I like back then I thought the dad was so cool because he like made him count in all those different languages, and I was like, yo, that would be so cool to raise a kid like that. And I want to be able to raise my kid to like, if they see a news story, to like ask them for a parallel historical event.
Yeah.
That's to show that history just keeps repeating itself. Like, dude, I got this one's a bop, dude. I read it in the same book, and I love it because it makes you realize the shallowness of the public education that we get.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I thought this was going to be a comedy podcast. I didn't know this was going to be like we're in the portal now.
funny takes on anything and everything.
We'll get to there. You know, like Jews are crazy. No, I mean,
this is a comedy podcast.
Yeah, this is too meta. There's 4 walls in this room. I'm not breaking the 4th one. But no, but
Jewish women.
Yeah, as long as they're black.
Jewish women.
Oh, no, but there was this really fucking cool anecdote from history that, or ways, because it makes you think about, like, you're just taught part of the story, but a lot of times you aren't taught the explanation. So America sought its independence because it didn't have any representation in Parliament, and they were being taxed at the ass because of the tea tax of 1773.
Yep.
Now, that's all we're taught of American history. That's where our history starts.
Yeah.
But there is a reason why the British increased taxes sharply out of nowhere. That's why they reacted, because it was an immediate tax that came out of nowhere. And then that's kind of what woke them up. It was like a huge price hike.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't just the slow boiling of the water.
In the 1770s, there was an attack on Bengal in India. And the British stepped in as like a military authority to oversee that there was no more violence. Kind of like what America does in Iraq.
World police.
Exactly. So the East Indian Trading Company, East India, then there's the West Indies and the islands, because Columbus doesn't know how to fucking go east, apparently.
Who needs it?
Yeah, well, Vasco da Gama beat him to it, which, another point.
Yeah.
But, so anyways, they're fucking around in India, and the leaders around Bengal are, like, using their interference as, like, a way to corrupt the politic. So the East Indian Trading Company is trading all this shit, and it's like the leaders from around are bribing the East Indian Trading Company to give them more favorable positions of power. And they basically corrupt the shit out of India over the course of a couple years, to the point where a third of the population of India dies of starvation because they're cut off from supply to grain and food and, like, access to, like, all this shit, because colonizers do what colonizers do. They snatch up the resources and create a paywall, basically.
Yeah.
You know, they're like the OnlyFans of empires. They're just like, can't see this pussy. Be like, I could have dated you. Be like, so I was mad.
Also, you guys need a regional government. We got to organize this stuff.
Be like, we just traded. Yeah, you do trade with the money we make, and we tax you on it, and you can't buy anything the way you want. And also, you can't make salt, Gandhi, so you better watch your fucking step, all right?
Here's your constitution.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Yeah.
It's not even in my language.
Yeah. Don't worry. It's boilerplate. You don't have to worry about it.
Dude, that would be a great sketch. Like, the British Empire sends an agent to like draft like India as a new talent. Like, we love you, man. Like, it's like a sports agent, or like a Jerry Maguire with like an Indian, like the leaders of India, or like what America did to
just got like a whole legal team, just all these guys in the barrister outfits with the fucking wigs, just showing up like we were from Lloyd of London.
Yeah, or like Dole, like the representatives from Dole going to the king of Hawaii, like King Kamehameha. They're like, "What's a pineapple?" They're like, "Don't worry about it. It's totally not going to be the entire industry that we rob your country, you rob your country of." But anyways,
or like when they bought all the fucking the Cape and Manhattan and all that shit for clamshells.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Give me. I do actually have a hot take on that, though. The Native Americans need to shut the fuck up about New York, all right? Sorry, American Indians. Because it's like,
New Amsterdam is our territory.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, you didn't have the wheels, so just chill for a second. I mean, but I fuck with some. No, that's a little over the top. But it's like, just because we did some dope shit with it, don't be jealous. You could have also built the Flatiron Building. You just didn't think about it.
You had your shot.
Yeah, exactly. We showed up and it was an undeveloped. We just gentrified.
That's the American way. We eminent domain that shit. We fucking bulldozed it.
Oh, yeah.
We put up a hotel, make some money, get some tax revenue, get the shit going.
Like, I'm sorry that Native Americans don't have bootstraps. Pull yourself up by your moccasins. A 101 class for business classes for a completely disenfranchised community.
Dude, I will say, though, like, all that Native American history about you know, like like the Apache and the fucking Cheyenne and shit like
Comanches
that.
are my guys,
Comanche,
because they're short, they got a chip on their shoulder, they got bullied by the other
Yup.
American Indians, and then they got horses, and they said, your boy just had a glow up, and then they fucking killed everyone. And what's more fucked up is the Trail of Tears is not just bad because there was like just what the Trail of Tears is, but because they marched them to the Western tribes and basically led them to slaughter.
Oh, yeah.
You know what the Western tribes called, like, the Western tribes basically referred to the Northeastern, or like what we know, like the Mohegan Sun fucking people. They're as like, no offense, but
the Mohegan Sun people.
I would love a sponsorship, and I'm sorry.
Casino Indians, not horse Indians.
Yeah, sorry. I hope no one's listening who books
Jesus
the Comics
Christ,
Roadshow.
I've been to that venue. It's a great venue.
I'm sorry.
Shout out to Jeff Wade.
This is for your side. I feel empathetic because the Western tribes referred to like the Northeastern tribes, like what we're taught in New England, as like basically the Uncle Toms of like American Indians.
Yeah.
Because they had first contact with the white man, and they had like basically sold,
Yeah.
So the people in California are like, bro, you sold out, and they're like, they killed my family. What the fuck do you want me to do, you piece of shit? And then they marched them into the Comanche, and they just fucking took them out. They're like, because they're very territorial.
Yep.
So it was like going into a neighborhood and then like displacing like good like just on decent people into like a Crips neighborhood, and they're just like, good luck.
These guys moved in, we made them this big beautiful dinner, taught them how to farm, they made it a national holiday, and what the fuck did they do?
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the
Pissed
thing is,
on our rug.
yeah, like the Thanksgiving is a celebration of 50 years of peace between them, but it's like that's because you had to celebrate that because they fucking went toe to toe for a bit.
Yeah, dude, I read this book when I was in like the 5th or 6th grade. My dad was reading this like book about like the Pequots and stuff like that, and I was reading about some of the battles they had in these forts, like when they're early moving in there. Like these guys were like in these little wooden fucking actually, no, this was from a field. That's why you learned it so young. I was at a field trip to the fucking to the little museum.
Yeah, when you go to that like plot of land, like this is how people lived, and you're like, that's still how they live because we robbed them of their financial resources and like access to loans.
My favorite part of that whole thing was always the fact that there were a bunch of like statues of like people as they looked at the time, and like in the exhibit, and like all the women were always topless. And, that was great for third grade me.
Nat Geo, Papa Bless, not Geo.
Before I learned how to use the internet, so.
Oh yeah, dude! I wanted to talk to you about that too. Remind me, because about like where you found your first porn. Because,
oh hell yeah!
But I want to finish
is a good
this
story.
Anecdote. Yeah. So we'll get to the funny stuff. Let's talk about the terrible history of how this country, raped an entire nation.
We have to acknowledge it.
Yeah, acknowledge my privilege, and you get a pass because
apparently, so I've been told.
So, anyways, Britain gets involved with the East Indian Trading Company, which at the time is like the backbone of their economy. It's like the company. It's like 3M or like fucking. It's basically like the Dow Jones, S&P, like when those things drop.
Yeah.
Right. And this is important. So because they're shares of the company, just like Dow Jones or like the S&P or Standard, whatever. So they get involved.
I'm sorry.
They starve out a third of the population of India to death, and the British are like, what the fuck is happening? Like, they're over there in London doing their shit, and they realize that the company is like fucking up, so they start doing a run on the shares, and they sell and they short it.
Oh my god!
And it takes a nosedive, and it's like falling and falling and falling, and the entire economy is about to collapse. So the British Empire says, "Fuck, we got to bail these guys out. We got to bail them out because they're too big to fail."
Oh, that's where
they're too big to fail.
With the tulip companies and fucking.
They're too big to fail, which, stop me when this sounds familiar. 2008, from 1778 to like 2008. It's like, and then they bailed them out, and they looked around to all their Commonwealth. They looked around to all the fucking colonies they had, and like, who's paying the lowest in taxes? And they said like, well, the Americans are paying nothing compared to our British counterparts, so they just made the Tea Act of 1773, which led to our revolution.
No shit.
No shit indeed. Which is
why I am a big American history guy, and I did not know that.
Isn't that crazy?
Fucking awesome.
Dude, and I love economics, and this book is great for like
dude.
economics and like macro. And when they talk about macroeconomics, like, this is what the fuck they're talking about. Like some shit way across the ocean in a country that they thought they were going to, 300 years prior and ended up on you, now is affecting what you need to do. And that's like and then of course, hundreds of years later, then Gandhi did the same shit.
Yeah.
When like, because Britain, the history of Britain is basically like, we're going to take over these people with such a small, like the way that the British Empire could flex on like foreign countries with such a little like military force is honestly like, if it wasn't so shitty, it'd be genius that they can like put so much power against, so like you could at any point overpower them and fucking take over, but they didn't. And like the only people who did that was Haiti against the French, and they were totally outnumbered. And then Haiti was like the only successful slave revolt.
The French had some bad luck with revolting colonies, huh?
Bitch boys.
Haiti, Vietnam, fucking.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
But so yeah. Anyways, so that was the story of like how we got America, is because they overtaxed us, which is why it's even more bitch that we didn't rally against our new overlords, Wall Street.
Dude, unchecked speculation is just like a fucking irresponsible like casino making of the economy.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I will never change my mind about that.
I love how they once they get their PP slapped by the shit that they do all the time, then they're like, it's not fair. Yeah. It's like, shut the fuck up, you little bitches. You could buy me over like 7 times, but like
I can't. Yeah.
No, I know it's absurd. It is absurd that we've like handed over our economy to this like.
It's a cabal.
It's a cabal
cartel.
Of criminals. Yeah, they're criminals. Yeah. Just like Cuomo. You fucking.
He's a piece of shit.
He is a piece of shit. Fuck yeah. Native Americans, I love you. My American Indians, I love you. But Cuomo can die in a fire, and that's not a direct threat. YouTube, I'm sorry. Don't demonetize this. But
I don't want him to. He just like if he did, I wouldn't shed a tear.
He's a fucking cunt. Yeah. Him and his
other than for the loss of human life and
De Blasio. Dude, you know what I just learned too? De Blasio is not even his real name.
Really?
Let me tell you.
Is it?
It's Wilhelm.
Wilhelm?
Yeah, his name is not even Bill de Blasio.
Is he Argentinian by any chance?
He is the fucking devil, dude. Did you hear? Yeah. Did you see his the dance corps thing he had? Like, we're bringing the arts back to New York, and he had some shitty. No offense to the dancers, I'm sure they were great, but like, he had these dance troupe do like a dance in the street, like we're bringing the arts back to New York. It's like, then stop closing the comedy clubs and the fucking like the music and all that shit, you dumb prick.
You are ruining culture in New York City, like for every they're fucking people are having to do mics in fucking basements and underground shit. Same with band shows and all that. It's bullshit. Open the shit up.
Plus, it's like, it's like, if I'm a business owner, if I owned a fucking restaurant and I'm seeing you put on all this tax money to make a dance show in the streets, and then like I owned a restaurant for the last like 70 years, like it's been in my family, and you're like, we need to bring the arts back. It's like, hey, what about like my pizza shop, you fucking arrogant cunt?
That I put my whole life and family welfare
Warren Wilhelm Jr. Warren Wilhelm Jr.
Bill de Blasio.
Yeah, he probably had like a bunch of Italian friends who bullied him. He's like, I'm gonna become mayor someday.
Slimy little fuck.
Dude, it's like, what did they even do? That's the question. At a certain point, a governor is supposed to govern, a mayor is supposed to may or something. I don't know, but it's like you're supposed to govern the people who elect you. And I heard
grifters. They're grifters.
Oh, I know.
That's it.
And I heard this thing too, which was like a very interesting point. It's like they don't care about the small businesses, because the people who own small businesses are not going to be the ones voting for Bill de Blasio. Sorry, I'm not going to call him Bill de Blasio. For Wilhelm.
Yeah, for
Warren Wilhelm Jr.
Mr. Wilhelm, Governor or Mayor Wilhelm.
Warren Wilhelm Jr.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That shit, like, it bothers me because, like, as someone who, like, used to want to be a politician, like, I was very political growing up. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. You definitely have some Che Guevara vibes.
I mean, a lot of that's this, but also, I got some pretty.
You have a T-shirtable face.
Ideas.
You have a T-shirt that some like blue-haired lesbian would love to wear, like unironically, and not understand that you have some really radical politics that was against her.
It'd be really funny to like make a bunch of like fake Che T-shirts with my face. Oh, dude, I'm gonna get some merch going. All right, if you guys want fake T-shirts with Che, it's my I'll get it. I'll get it going.
You would look good in red and black.
Yeah. I dressed up as Fidel Castro for Halloween this year.
That makes sense. That works, dude. You know who? Sorry to interrupt you. No. I want to hear what you have to say. But if there was going to be a biopic about Fidel Castro, how has nobody thought to cast Liam Neeson?
Wow, hot take. I like that. Yeah.
I mean, I know he's white, and the Cuban community doesn't care because they voted for Trump. But other people who pretend to be for the community,
No, I'm not laughing at that. There's a political ad specifically from that Miles showed me. That's fucking like the Trump team made this ridiculous song, like it's like Cuban style, it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, but that's also like weird that you don't think about it, and then it's like if you ask a Cuban, it's like, yeah, because our family came from socialism, and we've been told that the Democrats just want socialism, so we'll just vote for the other guy. Yeah. And we also love grabbing women by the pussy without their consent. So no offense to Cubans, but I forget lost my
You
track.
make a great sandwich.
I lost my train of thought. But that's true, dude. You ever see that movie Chef?
Oh, I love that movie.
Dude, I love getting high and like
Yeah.
watching the movie Chef because it like the munchies are so fucking good. But yeah, I mean, I've always seen when I saw pictures of Fidel Castro, that's just my like if I had to cast a biopic, I know he's white and he's Scottish, but it's like his facial structure is so fucking Fidel Castro.
Yeah.
Like if they cast anybody else, I'm like, no. But like I look at Liam Neeson, I'm like, you look like Fidel Castro,
Yeah.
like cleanly shaven.
And
It's
he's
weird.
right at the age now where he could do young and old
yeah,
if they
that's
shave
true.
him and they fucking like
They
make him
could
up
like
and shit.
they could do like an Irishman deep fake on him kind of thing, and then they could just age him up with
Dude,
some prosthetics and stuff.
That scene where De Niro is stomping out that guy outside the shop in The Irishman is the most unbelievable shit I've ever watched. He's so stiff and fucking like it's like
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong. I liked the movie. I enjoyed the movie, but like
Which part? The part that's
Yeah.
3.5 hours? I didn't fucking finish it. I started watching it and I'm like,
took me 2 days.
same.
Yeah,
And I still didn't finish
never
'cause I
watched
fell
movies
asleep
in
at the
2
same time.
sittings. That's
The thing is, it's like, look, I mean, I love Scorsese, and obviously he doesn't need me to tell him if he's good or not. Like you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
who gives a fuck? He probably just did it for the money because, like, honestly, it's like Charles Dickens getting paid by it's like by the word. It's like this motherfucker
Yeah.
got paid by the frame because he filled the whole. It's 3.5 hours long. It's like almost 4 hours actually.
That reminds me of I got a book down here. I don't know where I put it actually. The Gambler by Dostoevsky.
I think I saw it somewhere.
Yeah, he actually wrote that book to pay like the public, like some debtor made him write that book to pay off his gambling debt. They're like, you owe us, you need to pay off your shit.
Dostoevsky.
Write a book. So he's like, all right, it's called The Gambler. It's about a guy who
I
has
see
no
it.
money.
I see it. I
Yeah.
see it. Dude, how great are Russian literary minds? I mean,
It's
I
the-
want to
it's the
learn
pain
Russian
of
just to
being-
read. And now this is going to be the most hipster. This is the whitest thing of the week for Gage.
Yeah, you
want
might
to
win
learn-
here.
I want to learn German to read Dostoevsky in his mother tongue.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. I know exactly what you mean. It definitely is the whitest thing. And it's hilarious.
And normally, like, it is some white shit because no one actually does it. But I learned German and then read all of my favorite German philosophers. Kant, Nietzsche is my favorite. He's like respects the homeboy, or
And
probably because God is dead, so he respects the homeboy.
There's the whitest thing.
No, is the whitest. It's just a constant, like a gauge that just
Yeah.
keeps ticking and staying there.
You said
Oh
your
yeah,
name.
I know. Fucking, I hate
Sorry.
that. No, because I work at a factory, so we say Gage all the time. But somebody gave me a nickname. They say Sage because they couldn't say Gage because they're fucking toddlers there, or the mental equivalent. Shout out to my paper factory. If you're
You were at
watching
a
this.
paper factory?
Yeah, I'll get into that.
Yeah.
I might be giving off trade secrets, but who gives a fuck? You can fire me, bitch. I got nothing to lose. Except all this debt. No, but yeah, I learned German, and then we, of course, in class, like read, because like we read Mark Twain so we can say the N word, and we read like
Yeah.
Magic Treehouse, and we're so illiterate as a country. It's like English has a lot of great stories to offer. Like I've loved Lord of the Flies is my favorite book
That's
of all
a great
time.
book.
Love it. I want them to make like actually good movie of it, and I think there's like an opportunity. But anyways,
We actually read that in a political philosophy class. In
Really?
college. Yeah. I mean, like I read it before, but
it's
yeah.
fucking great, man.
Yeah,
That's
it
why
is a
my
great
favorite show
book.
is Lost.
Oh, I
I
love
know
that
it's got
show.
its flaws. I know it's
Yeah.
got its flaws, but I watched it 4 times already, and there's a podcast about it. I've rewatched the podcast with the show simultaneously twice.
Yeah, my ex-girlfriend dragged me into watching that, and then I loved it by the end.
Dude, I tried dragging my girlfriend into it, and at a certain point she wasn't into it, and I'm like, I don't like. You need to like this, like. but yeah. So I've learned German, and then I was reading it, and there's so many words in like foreign languages that just don't cut the mustard in English.
Especially not in German. They have some
German
fucking...
is
I was just talking with Miles about this. I'd expressed a concept to him about something actually having to do with my ex-girlfriend, weirdly enough.
there you go.
About the
Fotze, Schlampe, Muschi.
maybe you can answer the question. The idea of like the pain of having caused someone else pain. So like
It's
the
deeper than guilt.
yeah, exactly.
It's a different guilt. It's like a subset of guilt.
What I was telling him is it's basically like it's a pain you feel, and the pain you caused is outside, like is felt outside of your own body, and that knowledge is it's a sort of that like the albatross,
Yeah.
the romantic literary thing. Like
It's the opposite of Schadenfreude. Like you
Yeah,
don't seek
yeah.
joy, so it would be you gain pain from someone else's, from pain that you caused onto someone. So that would
I
be
was wondering if there was a word for that.
I don't know. If it was, the Germans wouldn't have it because they don't feel pain. But um,
We only cause it.
no, but no,
Shout out to my German friends.
I learned. I only have one German friend left. Shout out to Mara. Love you.
Sebastian.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, you have German friends.
A German friend.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You always need one.
Yeah, you just one.
What I realized about Germans
Just in
too,
case.
like based off of their history, it's like they are just barbarians, but they have been made a lot of wrong barbarian mistakes, and now they're like reformed, and now they're
Yep.
very punctual. Trains run to the minute. Everything works. They have very precise things, but you get a couple drops of Jägermeister in them, and they just fly off the handle.
It's like
and
your friend who
fucking
went to
hilarious.
AA and got really fucking like
Yeah.
tight about their scheduling and
Yep.
like I can't be staying out late like that. It's a trigger. Like I'm not gonna and like
Yeah.
more power to you. Respect the shit out of you.
Oh,
Love
yeah.
you.
But you're like a recovering tyrant.
But yeah, exactly. But it's like at some point, man, you're gonna fucking snap, and I want to be there when it happens.
Oh yeah.
Like,
No, but
not actually.
the
like,
German word things, like I can only imagine what it's like in Russian, because there's words that when you hear, you're like, oh, there's not a word for it in English, but then you have to describe it like that.
Mhm.
There's they have such cool words, but then they also lack some words that we have in English. Like my German friend was telling me they don't have a word for unnecessarily. But also the structure of German is fascinating
They
too.
do nothing unnecessary.
Yeah,
That's
well,
why.
everything is necessarily. But
Why would you do something unnecessary?
yeah, if it's not necessary, don't do it. It's okay. You don't have to do it. No, but they have words for the day before yesterday as one word.
No shit.
Vorgestern or
Vorgestern.
übermorgen means the day after tomorrow.
I like that.
Yeah, I love that.
That's so much fucking. That's so efficient.
Yeah, dude. And they have the way they count is strange though. So once you get to the ones and the ones and the tens, they switched them. So they don't say 31, they say 1 in 30. 2 and 30, 3 and 30, 4 and 30, which is very strange because
Yeah.
you have to double back every time. So if I were to say like 21,935, it would be 21,935. So you'd have to like jump back and then back.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
crazy.
So you don't just read it left to right.
It's-
They have
yeah.
to jump a little bit at the tens. So every time you hit the tens,
That's
and their
that's
commas and their
confusing.
periods are switched. So if
Mhm,
you're seeing
yep.
like you just do, but which is cool. What's something I respect the fuck out of in Europe though
Mhm.
is, and America really needs this, is a standardized serving for your food. So like when you look at your like nutrition facts,
Yeah.
this in Germany, every food or beverage requires to have a standard metric of a serving, and then the company can decide to add a serving that it deems as the reasonable serving. So every nutrition fact is 100 grams or 100 milliliters. Whatever's in 100 grams and whatever in 100 milliliters, what's in that? Like how much sugar's in 100 grams? Like so you
That's
need
nice,
you're
yeah.
forced to make people understand. Everyone will know what 100 grams is. Everyone knows what 100 milliliters is. So the company can't just be like, yeah, it's, only 50 grams of sugar in a serving, and the serving's like a fucking tablespoon.
Do the math.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
figure it out. It's like, we've never been good at math. We're
Yeah.
America. What the
Yeah,
fuck are you
literally,
talking
it's
about?
not what we do. I wanted to ask you about this actually, though, since
Yes.
you've lived in Germany.
Yes.
So when I was abroad, I didn't study. My little trip there.
Mike transitioned, and we
Yeah.
don't call each other bras. We're brave feminists now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I needed somebody to
I
say
need-
it. I needed
that-
the
that-
affirmation.
I hate my dad for making that joke every fucking day. Like, well, you studying abroad? Which one? And why just one? Shut up. But anyways, yes, go on, please.
So when we were over there, like one of my favorite foods that I had, was Wiener Schnitzel. I had no idea what it was until I
Interesting.
went abroad. I used to think it was like some kind of weird sausage or like a dessert.
Many do.
Didn't realize that it was like a cutlet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to Fiegelmuller, like the original Wiener Schnitzel place in Vienna. Like, dude, that shit came out. It was like the plate was,
Oh, yeah.
it was this big,
Dude.
just a thin ass fucking cutlet, fried in this like lard at like a certain temp. Like,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
delicious. Like, it is so like I'm Italian. Like, I grew up eating chicken cutlets. It's my fucking bread and butter of like food. Always has been. My nonna used to make the best. Fucking Wiener Schnitzel, like I learned how to make that shit immediately when I got back,
Yeah.
and that's what I make now instead of cutlets. 'cause
Wiener
it's
Schnitzel is like a
amazing.
sauceless chicken parm.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
you
But
put some lemon on it. You get that potato salad they
so
make.
you said
with
you
it.
went to Austria, right?
Yeah, I went to Vienna. Yeah,
Austria is like a whole different place.
Yeah.
It's so much older. Like
Mhm.
even Bavaria could almost be considered a different country from
Yeah.
Germany, because Upper Germany,
Yeah.
Northern Germany.
Oh yeah, we
Um,
learned all about that when we were there. When we were like outside one of the palaces in the city, like within the middle of the city there. There was they had excavated this area and they had on display old Roman ruins that were like literally like stories down below the dirt, and it's so like they're all original, fucking all the archways and shit. You can just see them like what's left of it. It's like holy fuck, like and then above that there's just these like just these medieval palaces.
Well, that's why it's so
like,
different too, because Austria
not actually medieval, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
If I might be wrong, but I believe Austria's on border with Italy, right?
Yeah, they do share,
Switzerland.
Or Switzerland. I think they share like the Alp
the little
border,
trifecta. Because the Roman Empire had agreements with border tribes like the Gaul and the Visigoth and all that stuff like that. So those would be like the more civilized. Those would be like the Uncle Toms of the barbarians.
Yeah.
And so the Gaul, deep into the wilderness, you know, the hinterland of Germany, the northern Germans, those were like the true barbarians. But then like there was more like aristocratic on the borderlands because they would dole out power, and then the Germans would be like, well, that's not enough power, we're gonna sack your city, you know, we're just take over. Plus we have the mountains as a defense. But as you get beyond the Bavarian mountains, it's flat and it's all farm, and it comes off the Black Sea, and that Germany is like the more modern, that's like the newly developed shit. And I want to go take a trip with you, man, because
we should,
because it would be so fun.
Have you been to Czech Republic?
Yeah, dude,
it's my
went to Prague.
I want to talk about Prague, actually. Do you mind if we... Yeah, okay, go finish.
No, I'll finish real quick what I'm saying, but I think it bears a more extensive visit into the hinterland of Germany, because the cultural expansion you get once you get into Frankfurt. Frankfurt's my favorite city. They have a film museum there. It makes me want to fucking come.
Also, but like, greatest prostitution scene in Europe.
Frankfurt?
In Frankfurt, yeah. They have the best brothels, so I hear.
I didn't know.
And I've been to Amsterdam.
Well, I didn't know because I walk in the light of Christ and I don't pursue sex workers. But
I have never.
We'll talk about it afterwards because I want to get some.
I don't mind talking. I've talked about that on stage.
And I've been to Amsterdam, but in the daytime, which it does not look so good. Those are like the daytime strippers.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's funny you said that, because when you said my favorite food, I didn't know you were so far down south, because as you get up further, you get more like immigrant food, and there's a huge Turkish population in Germany, because after World War II they needed to rebuild, so they had a huge like influx of migrant workers to like help rebuild the city. And also the Ottoman Empire didn't fare so well, so like we could go for some work. And döner is my favorite, which is like a kebab like we have here, like shaved in like a pita. You know, the Greeks call it a gyro, the Middle Eastern, like a lot of like Jordanian, like Saudi people call it like a kebab, but they call it döner, which is like a Turkish word. Dude, fucking gained like I the only reason I didn't lose as much weight as I could have there is because of döner. It's such a perfect hangover food, dude. You asked for the red sauce, that's the hot shit. Dude. One time I came home, I was walking.
Lamb over rice got me through college.
Dude, I was walking back from the club and I needed something in my body before I got on the train. And I had it, and I asked for like the hottest sauce they had, and I literally like started to cry, and like my nose started to run, and I was just like a fucking drunk degenerate in the street, just eating it like it like seeping over my hand like that tzatziki and stuff like that. And I was just like eating. I'm like, I need it so bad, but it's so hot.
Just that runny white, orangey, red mixture with the bubbles.
God, I'm so hungry. That I want to go there just to get döner again, because it's like the taste just doesn't match, because it's such a culturally different food.
Yes, it's very specific to
But no, tell me about Czech Republic.
Yeah, I just want to say on the food thing, when we were in London on that trip, I had some of the best like shawarma and like fucking just shit in Edgware that I like, you know, this really like Islamic day. Oh, so fucking good.
Dude, the Muslims make great food. I'm
look,
they
Middle Eastern food is my favorite food.
They might have started their religion like Kate Spade started a franchise of makeup, but they also led to the renaissance of like Islamic genius. I mean, the nation of Islam, like when it was in its peak, was also happening during the Dark Ages, which is why the Crusade was so much more important, because when they sacked Constantinople, they were like,
we got numbers.
Yeah.
We literally got our numbers.
Scientific method. And there was Muslim scholars that visited the Dark Ages England and was like, dude, these people basically just started believing in Christianity and gave up on learning. Like whatever happened to like the Renaissance of yore, when you like actually pursued invention and shit. Now you're just all like, and it was other things like disease and stuff like that. But tell me about Czech Republic, because I saw it very briefly. So I went to the Hard Rock Cafe, mind you. Oh my God. That's where we ate in Prague.
Jeez, Prague was my favorites, and I loved Amsterdam. Like, you know, when we were in Amsterdam, that was also best Indonesian food I've ever had was in Amsterdam.
Such a strange connection.
I think because of the trade relationships from a long time, they have like a storied population there in the city. And I had this fish that was like the greatest thing ever with the hottest motherfucking like thing on top
Asians
of it.
love a hot sauce.
Dude, it fucked me up. Like the whole next day, me and my buddy who I was traveling with were just like running. Like,
yep.
But so Prague though, man, that was awesome. We that was our first stop. So I flew into Prague, and we stayed at this like little like hotel hostel thing in like in like right on Old Town Center. There was just the food was awesome. Everything is cheap as shit, and the conversion rate is really helpful. You know, like, you know, you pay like 800. Like, so I bought while I was there, I was I probably
Corona.
I don't care. I was I was looking for some
Ecstasy,
herbal
weed
assistance.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a different country. It's legal.
Yeah,
There.
it actually actually, so that's fine.
Yeah. And also statute of limitation.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
That's the whitest thing of the week.
Yeah.
Say statute of limitation.
So we so you know, I'm looking around, and in the first night we were like walking through the city center, and this really sketchy guy approaches an alleyway and was like, "Hey, you want to buy some weed?" And I was like, good. Like, I'll just stick to drinking." And then I walked by this absinthe and head shop, and I was like, "Okay, whoever owns this place,
Yeah, buddy.
definitely smokes pot."
Yeah,
so
buddy.
I walk in, and I was like, "Hey, you I was like shopping. I'm asking about the CBD. All they have the CBD shit because it's not technically legal there.
Yeah.
And I was like, "You have any real weed?" And he he was an Asian guy, but he only spoke Dutch and I think it was Korean. And
Only.
yeah.
What language do you
I
speak,
mean,
Mike?
okay. I just mean because everyone I
He only
encountered
speaks
there.
Swahili, Dutch, Indonesian, and then also, you know, German for the tourists. But
Yeah.
this fucking guy couldn't understand English.
I speak English and 8 words in Italian. Like,
There you
excuse me.
Fanculo, mignon.
Yeah, literally. Whatever I picked up from my grandmother.
Yeah.
But
Mostly racial slurs, but go on.
So we so he's like looking around, and he's all sketched out, and he's like, "All right, one sec." And he runs upstairs to his apartment, and he comes back down with like a little cigarette foil with like a couple nugs in there, and he goes, huh? Just like that. And I was like, "All right, man, like, bet."
Yeah.
800 krona, 800 crown.
Damn.
But that's like, you know,
Yeah.
$40.
Dude,
Like,
also, don't you love their their Polygon coins?
yeah.
I was like,
have a bunch of
dude,
them in a box in my room.
I love them.
Yeah.
I love them because it's like that's what a great mint. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, what a great way to have a coin because it's like I want a Polygon coin. I don't want a fucking
Circle.
yeah.
It's unique as shit.
It is so unique, and it's like I don't know. It lends to so many other things like how vending machines work and
Yeah.
things like that. Like I have one of my very first families, right? My host family's in Germany. I had 3 separate families.
Mhm.
First one was my 10th family, so that I could learn German for I think it was like 3 weeks or 10 weeks. Which, by the way, for anyone who's like thinking about going to study abroad, don't take their language courses in the beginning. Just jump in head first because I learned nothing. I was in a class with 10 Americans who were away from home, wanted the comforts of home, and would lean on their English so much. So, and our teacher was like, didn't really have a spine, so he couldn't fucking stand up for himself. He was a new teacher. You know what I mean? Like, the most
You got to
I
jump
learned-
into that shit. You got to jump right
Dude,
in.
immersion is so fucking effective, man.
100%.
Especially, like, I realized that I love voices. I love impressions and stuff. I'm not good at them, but
You hear things, and yeah, I'm the same way. Like,
but with, like, accents, you give me 3 months, dude. I was practically fluent after like 2 months.
I can hear it in your accent when
Yeah.
you speak the German. It's very, very
I dream in German, man.
pronounced.
Like, and
No shit.
I'll turn that shit on, and people. Actually, I had a funny story about that. I went to this. So the Germans love these parties where they set up a tent. It's like a hardwood floor platform, and it's like really big tent that kind of looks like a wedding or something like that. And they have doors and shit in them too. There's like a skeleton to it, but
Yeah.
it's basically a tent so you
It's
just
like all
pop it
these
up in
new
a field.
outdoor restaurants.
Yeah, basically the Germans had that shit on lock a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they do like indoor shit because it's it's still a pretty temperate climate. So I went to one of these parties, mind you. It's a bigger story, which I don't want to take it up with all the time, but like there was a fight and I had a bottle of wine that was like a vintage that I was told to
Yeah.
keep by a rich friend, and like he got too drunk to remember, and I put it under the truck bed of that brought in.
Oh.
Well, no, it's good. They brought it in on the truck bed, like the flatbed that they brought the tent in on. I just put it under the wheel well, and everyone completely forgot about it. There was a blow up fight with him and his girlfriend. He was looking to punch her, and I was like, "Whoa!" So we had to separate her. She left, and I was
Jesus
all
Christ.
alone, and I was just with the little spattering of friends that were left over after this like huge fight. And they went back to their house later on, and like she threw like a scotch, one of those like you pour scotch into like a separate vase or whatever,
Yep,
a bottle,
yeah.
through his
Decanter.
TV.
One of those guys.
Yeah, exactly. But like one of those clear, like
Yep,
crystal ones
yeah.
through his flat screen. And yeah, so anyways, they're still together. But
That is a $200 plan.
yeah, they have 5 kids now, but it's okay. Anyways, no, but they all left me. No, I'm just kidding. I wish probably because they're like the white trash of Germany. You know what I mean? Like white trash doesn't have a color. It's just
No,
like it'll
yeah.
find you in every country.
Yeah.
But so I found this wine bottle later because I was still drinking from like the bar and stuff, and we were all gonna drink it later, but everyone left. So I had a bottle of wine. I couldn't open it. I'm like, you need a corkscrew, and because it's a vintage. He has rich parents. He took it from his parents' like liquor cabinet. And so I went to the back door of where the bar is set up because there's a separate bar truck that's got all the material. And I knocked on the door. I'm like, hey, buddy, you have a corkscrew? I said him in like my American accent. No, I told him in German, but I'm like, you got a corkscrew? He's like, yeah. So we were trying to fuck with the corkscrew, and the handle snapped off the corkscrew. So there's just a bare screw sticking out of a cork in a vintage, beautiful Merlot. And I was like,
You got pliers?
Fuck are we gonna do? Then he got out a screwdriver and stuck it through, and held it in my lap, and I yanked it open, and I finally popped it, and I was like, I'm gonna finish this bottle of wine. So I just stumbled around the party. People were taking smoke breaks outside in the field, and I got into an argument with this girl. She was drunk. I was drunk. She didn't believe that I was American because my accent was good. But like I heard this from other people too. They're like, "Where are you from?" And I would tell them America. I'm like, "Oh, that makes so much sense because like your accent, you sound like you belong here, but your grammar is dog shit. Like, you're just stupid." But my accent was like on lock because I would be listening all the fucking time. And I got into an argument with this girl. I pulled out my ID. I'm like, "You stupid bitch! Do you know what Connecticut is? You fucking idiot! It's not in Russia." And I was like showing her, and she's like, "I don't believe it's fake." I'm like, "Why would I fake getting a Connecticut license in Germany?
How would I make up that name?
Yeah,
too?
and
Like,
so I polished off the bottle of wine and I passed it at someone's house. But German's fucking dope, and Germany's so fun. And please tell me more about the Prague. Yeah.
Yeah. So when Czech Republic, because we went to one other place too. So while we were there, we went to this. We were like walking around the first night, and we went to this pub or whatever, and we're drinking beer. And I noticed that they have Budweiser over there, but it's pronounced Budvar, but it's so actually the guy Anheuser-Busch guy stole that name from a Czech beer company that existed for a very long time.
Budweiser?
Yeah, so that name is a Czech beer. They stole it, made it in America, got huge, and then the Czech company was like, "Hey, what the fuck? Like this is our beer."
Are you saying Budweiser is the bittersweet symphony of
Yes,
beers?
Yes, I am. And so Budweiser has a settlement with this company. And basically, they have territories. I don't know what year it was, but they have so in the Czech Republic and in some places in Europe wherever they have the contracts or whatever, Budweiser is just Bud, and then in America, Budvar is Budvar. It's spelled like as it's pronounced.
Yeah. And someone tell Post Malone, like he needs to call his agent. He's like, what? They sold out.
What I want to see before the end of my lifetime, I want to see like what happened with where Chappelle got all his rights back and like the money from Comedy Central. I want to see that happen for the Czech Budweiser. Yeah. I want to see them like get blown up and fucking. I want to see Anheuser-Busch have to have a corporate meeting and be like, okay, we're giving up the Budweiser name,
dude. And if I hope it's a different recipe because Budweiser is liquid dog
it's
shit.
so much. It's so good. It's
sure
so
it
good.
Oh, that makes me so much more upset.
Czech beer is some of the best beer in the world.
Oh yeah, like a Czech Pilsners were my favorite when I was like trying to get into beer because my first drink I had was in Germany. Like I was a pretty sheltered kid, but when I moved there, I was 17 and I looked like this. I mean, obviously better cut hair, but like I had a beard out of high school, so they thought I was like 30. Because some weird thing about Germans is although like you associate with them with barbarians, the Germans up north, almost none of them could grow facial hair.
That's weird.
The people who had facial hair were the Turkish people, so I was bonding with like them. I was actually trying to learn Turkish while I was in Germany, while I was still learning German, so that I could I was basically trying to make black friends in Germany.
Yeah.
Because the reason I brought up Germany is because when I went from having the most diverse school ever to being in like shades of white, like 50 shades of white.
Oh yeah.
You look at a school book photo, it's like, it's so bad. It's like
everywhere east, like Germany, Poland, fucking like all those places are like that.
But then you start to get weird like immigrant populations too, and you're like, whoa, wait, so that country went here because of this war and that, and it's very wild. Fascinating. Or like I saw a TikTok because like Russia is in Asia, and there's also like Kyrgyzstan, all the steppes, the Caucasus mountain region, the steppes, where the steppes.
Yeah.
So, but all the stands pretty much, and it's crazy to think at a certain point someone looks Asian, like what we Americans call Asian, but they speak Russian. You know what I mean?
That's fucking
And so it was
wild.
like this girl who looked, like Chinese or like something like that, but then she was speaking with a Russian accent. She was speaking Russian.
That is
And you're like,
mind-blowing.
and she's like, she's like saying it, she's like, I don't feel like you Americans, you fucking ignorant. Like, I'm Russian, you stupid. And she's like, I'm not Russian Asian, I'm Russian. Like, Russia is in Asia, you fucking idiots. And I was like, damn, sister, preach. That's so true, but also you fuck me up. Like,
Yeah.
that's like, I saw a video of this white guy who was raised entirely in Hong Kong. And so his like looked like a lacrosse boy, but he spoke fluent Mandarin with like a fluent, and it sounded like it looked like he was racist.
I know a couple of those Hong Kong kids, man. They like
They're
it's a weird breed. Like the kids of the super rich British and Americans
Yeah.
who do business in Hong Kong. Like I should say I've only met two very nice people,
Yeah, I'm
but
sure they're
like
nice.
just like wildly fucking like
There's so more.
I'm talking about privilege. Like
Oh,
those
yeah.
are some of the fucking
But there's so much more intact culturally because they were exposed to other places.
Yes,
Whereas
yeah.
Americans, we have so much space. Like someone was saying, it's like if you drive in 1,000 miles in any direction in America, we all use the same money and speak the same language. We have lots of different
Yeah,
cultures,
we're just
but it's
talking
like you
about
can
that.
get along. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But like if you're in the Germany, which is like the center of Europe, and you drive in any direction for like 500 miles, you sometimes might get run into a different currency,
Mhm.
different like groups of people, different language, and it's they have to adapt to such a different environment.
Yeah.
Like Germany's the size of 6 Connecticuts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like you can get top to bottom pretty quick.
Yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
like in a road trip, but also they have open borders and like
Oh, yeah.
you can use your passports and
Yeah.
shit.
So when we went on this trip, I'll tell you about that because that actually ties right
Yeah.
in. So we started in Prague. We were there. It was just like culturally, I just loved Prague. I really like all the food I ate was delicious. All the history was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I learned that I don't want to blow up their spot here, and I know it's gonna fuck things up for them, but like I don't care because it's kind of funny. The Bohemia,
Yeah.
which is the name for like the region, and they gave to like Prague was sort of part of that
For
area,
gay
I
British
guess.
artists, yeah.
Yeah, it comes from home of the boys. That's what it literally means is home of the boys.
Saturdays
And,
for Bohemia.
Yeah. So sorry to have all the frat bros like now want to go to fucking Prague, but honestly, we ran into these guys from a British bachelor party there because it's a really popular
Oh, yeah,
destination
yeah.
for them. They were some of the funniest motherfuckers I've ever met. They're from like the countryside in England.
Oh yeah.
And so
so there was some good old boys. They're
Yep,
like the blue
yeah.
collars.
It was so. I'm walking down. There's like the spiral staircase in this pub we're in. And I'm walking downstairs, and this dude's walking up, and we're like doing the thing, and he's like
Sucks your dick.
laughing, and I was like, I'm gonna go take a piss, and he's like, oh, you want to come out for a fag after that? And I was like, yeah, sure, man, like why not? And so we go and we're smoking cigarettes, and we're just talking, and he's like, you guys are from America, and we're like, yeah. I'm doing a terrible accent. I can't
Yeah.
fucking do accents well right now. And he's like, I love America. I've been once, and they're like, oh, where'd you go? And he's like, West Virginia. And I was like,
Damn.
why? And he goes, why does every American say that? Like, you guys hate West Virginia. And
It's so true.
yeah. And I was like, because like there's so much cooler shit.
Yeah.
And he goes, Blue Ridge Mountains, man. Those are some beautiful fucking. And I was like,
Yeah,
you know what?
that's
It's a good
true.
point. And then him and his buddy started singing Country Roads
Oh,
by
that's
John Denver,
cute.
like at the top of their fucking lungs.
Oh man, that's so good. I
Yep.
love those experiences
Yep.
because you run into some like in Amsterdam, you run into a lot of fucking tourists on the boats, like
Yeah.
the ferries and shit like that.
I was in a so that was actually so it was Prague. The second stop was Vienna, which we talked about a little bit. Like
Yeah.
that was like a lot of. We saw some art museums, saw the palaces, the collections. That was history oriented, very cool, and the food was really good there too. Then we went to so we took a train, the midnight train to Bratislava. Overnight, we
Oh,
in a sleeper
Dude,
car.
that's from Eurotrip. You ever seen that movie?
Yeah,
Eurotrip?
yeah,
Where they're
dude.
like, I got a nickel, I quit.
It was so that's what I was expecting. Like I didn't know Bratislava was like a really beautiful city. We didn't stop through there, but like we were like looking. I was looking shit up because we had an hour layover at the
Yeah,
train
yeah,
station at 5 a.m. So there's nothing to do. But like dude, that sleeper car shit, man. Like that reminded me of Eurotrip. We were in there. It was
Viscusi.
it was me
Love that
and my
shit.
buddy, and it was a 4-person sleeper, which is like the smaller than this fucking office.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my buddy, and then this like this Hungarian businessman. He got on and it stopped through Budapest, and he hopped on there.
Budapest.
Yep.
Not Bucharest.
He immediately took off all of his clothes and just climbed into the fucking like bottom cot and was out
course.
within 30 seconds
Dude, of
like
course.
snoring because he's been doing this forever. He's a
Of
business guy.
course.
Then
It's
there
just
was
the culture, man.
this creepy Russian dude in like an off-brand North Face with like a big chain,
Fuck yeah.
fucking on his phone, FaceTiming his girlfriend the entire train ride down there. So we're sleeping there with our wallets tucked in our pants, everything like afraid we're gonna get
Like
fucking
Euro
raped.
Trip.
Yeah, like literally.
like the fanny
Yeah,
pack where he just takes it to
exactly.
the camera shop and just gives it to the guy.
And then
I gotta rewatch that movie. That's a
Funny
great
shit.
fucking movie, man.
and then we get to fucking Amsterdam, and I loved Amsterdam. Like being able to go
so
to the
beautiful.
cafes. I had this whole conversation in one of like the first coffee house I went to. I just bought a joint, like a hash joint. I was sitting there.
Yeah, for those
Fucking-
listening, for those uncultured fucks at home, there's a difference. If you go to this is the tip of the show. If you're looking for weed, because I know that's why you're going to Instagram. Or it's
Amsterdam.
I just had a stroke. Instagram. Cafes sell coffee. Coffee shops sell coffee and weed
Yep.
and everything. Like coffee shops, like if you couldn't realize the one thing that's in English is the one that sells weed,
Yeah.
you couldn't put those context clues together, then that's your spoon-fed explanation of
And
how to get weed. Go
You
for
have to
coffee
get a drink.
shops.
You have to get a drink while you're in
Yeah,
the coffee shops.
and
Otherwise
also-
you're rude as fuck.
Yeah, also don't go there just for the weed. Like they are baristas too.
It's good coffee.
It's
and,
great
and
coffee.
good conversation.
And also they don't have menus available to the public. You have to ask.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? It's like an undercover cop. Like, are you
Yeah.
have to ask because
Because it's not
the law-
technically legal.
Yeah.
But, so they have a really interesting cultural
please
thing
explain
with
because
that.
I don't understand. The way I thought it was you can't advertise it, but I didn't know it went deeper.
So there's a word for it. I forget what it is, but it's basically like Amsterdam is a culture of mind your own businessism, basically.
Good.
And it's yeah, I
You're more
love
America
it.
than
Yeah,
America.
dude.
Don't
it,
tread
it
on me,
is-
brother.
It's perfect. It comes from like Christianity used to be illegal there, but by illegal, their thing is basically like keep it in your house. Like whatever you want to do,
Yeah.
you can
don't
do.
ask, don't
And-
smoke.
Yep. And so basically the policy was kind of anti-drug until the 60s, much like in America. But what
Mm-hmm.
happened in Amsterdam was they started smoking weed publicly and openly and just in front of police officers.
It's like what they did in Boston.
Exactly.
Because it's like so decriminalized
Exactly,
in
yep.
Massachusetts. They're like, okay, can we just make it illegal?
Yeah.
Or
And-
make it legal.
And exactly. So what ended up happening was it's still not technically legal, but it falls under this sort of policy, which is like don't ask, don't tell, basically.
Yeah.
It's like you guys, you're a coffee shop.
That's, I mean,
Like-
how it
like,
fucking should, man. I
it
should be able to
is-
shoot up heroin in my
yeah.
house if I want to.
And
Not that I want to,
it's
but
funny.
if I did want to,
They-
what tells you I can fucking jump out of a plane, but I can't shoot up? You fucking asshole.
They all have signs that say no hard drugs.
Oh, yeah.
In the thing. But if you go to the head shops in Amsterdam, you can buy peyote flowers. So you can
course.
you can buy mushroom kits. You can
Buy
buy
anything.
fucking, yeah, you could buy, I didn't want to trip while I was there because like I was freaked out
you
about
can
like,
fuck a hooker.
yeah.
Like, I don't
oh,
know.
well, so I want to tell
Oh,
that story.
please go on.
So,
Please. Because I saw it in the daytime. Tell me what a red light district
Yeah.
looks like in its prime time at night.
So, you know when like you're in college and you walk into a bar and there's just like a ton of like gorgeous fucking girls in there, and you're
Yeah.
like overwhelmed,
Go to those like
and
rich
you're like I
neighborhoods.
want
They're all dressed up.
yeah,
and
I
all-
want to fuck like everyone.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, you can't. In Amsterdam,
Can't fuck them all.
you get to pick. You just walk down the street,
Yeah.
and there's all these women standing in lingerie in like window stalls, basically. Like, and you know, you just walk up and down the streets. You say, okay, like, I like you. You're very beautiful. Like, whatever. I'd like to have sex with you know someone who looks like you.
Yeah.
And you walk up to the window and you knock on it theoretically, and and
Yeah.
you and you talk to the girl. Danielle's her name, and maybe, and she
Danielle,
says,
such an American name.
yeah, Italian. She was. I guess it was
Oh.
Daniela. Probably. I was a little fucked up.
Yeah.
But
No, it's okay.
so she, you know, she's like, oh, it's €50, and I was like, oh,
For what?
Fucking bet. Oh, that I didn't even ask. I was like,
Yeah.
all right,
You're
€50
like, will you
sounds
touch
good to
me?
me.
50.
Theoretically, if I did this,
Yes.
and we walked in there.
Hypothetically, allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. Yeah. And so she would maybe lead me down a hallway that was all black marble all on the
Reportedly.
sides.
Sounds like a good
Actually,
design,
it kind of
though.
looked like this. Like,
Ooh.
I can't believe I have an actual fucking prop. Wow. So like, yeah, the marble kind of looked like this. Like
Wow.
the whole fucking hallway. You're going down.
That sounds
and,
pretty.
And then you walk into like, you know, like a locker room shower.
Yeah.
All this material, but all the walls, the
Ooh.
ceiling, everything.
I like that.
There's hooks on the walls. There's fucking
hookers.
chains hanging and shit. Like, and then at the back of the room, there's like a raised. All I can describe it as an altar, and it's basically like made of this material.
Starting to turn into Hostel.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
that's
it's a little
also
weird.
great
Like it
movie.
looks like a rich guy's sex dungeon. Like if you were like, oh,
Yeah.
this is what like fucking Jeff Bezos's weird fucking fetish dungeon looks like. That was it. And
That's where he keeps his other wife.
yeah, literally. So on that altar, there's just a pillow and a towel, and it's like a little cot thing in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like, okay, it's $50 for a blowjob. And you have to wear a condom, obviously, for everything. And she's like, it is, what'd she say? It's another 50. I'll take my clothes, like my bra and my panties off, and then another 50. We have sex. For,
it's a good tier
half
system.
hour. Yeah, it's like, and I was like, okay, €150. Like, I was expecting this to be more expensive.
Yeah.
Like, bet I'm about it.
Yeah,
so she's
and you're
like,
already
okay.
traveling.
Yeah.
You're expecting to spend money. It's like you go to the nice restaurants.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You don't want a cheap hooker.
No,
Get what you paid for.
And so she goes, and
Allegedly.
apparently this was allegedly one of the expensive ones, according to the someone who may or may not have patronized another one.
Don't need to say more. It's okay.
Yeah, and so allegedly, and so she allegedly starts to suck my dick, and she's and she
sucks some alleged dick.
Yeah. And she puts the condom on with her mouth,
dude. That's
like, which I've never seen before.
That is the pro. That's what you get for the $50.
It was the full porn star experience. She's like,
skill.
she's making noises while she's sucking my dick, like she actually likes it. Like, you know, she's like, and then she starts doing this thing where she's like sucking on it, and then she starts
allegedly
slapping herself in the face with
oh
it,
man,
like this, and she's going, oh yeah, like that.
I like a girl who earns her buck. That's good.
So I started laughing because I'm not like into the fucking cock slap thing. I just think it's fucking hilarious.
Never thought you'd ever get it in your life.
Yeah, like literally. So I was just like, like I just started cracking up.
Of course.
She broke character. She saw me laughing and started laughing her ass off because she didn't like to do it either. And then we like made eye contact, and I had a fucking moment with this hooker.
Aww.
And then we had sex, and it was like, and instead of being like a she wasn't acting. It was just like we were just fucking. We were just fucking.
Wow,
like,
that's what she wanted you to think, dude. She's on the deep shit, dude.
Maybe she's just like, it's that good of a performance.
Method. Yeah. She's like, she clocked you the moment she came in, dude. She studied psychology. She's going to get her doctorate. She just likes prostitution,
literally.
And she just like read you like a book, and she's just like, I'm gonna win over this American. It's gonna be so great. And then she earns it, dude. That's how you get repeat customers, though. It's good customer service.
It's true.
She's like the Chick-fil-A of bought pussy. She's like, it was my pleasure. It was my pleasure to give you your spicy deluxe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The waffle fries are a little extra, but they're so worth it.
Honestly,
we're so kind to you.
Her manners were fantastic. As soon as I finished, she climbed off and just goes, "Welcome to Amsterdam," while she was toweling off her fat.
That's so cool. That's
it was very cute. It's a cute meat.
Meat cute.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that is that's so sweet. You pretty womaned her.
Yeah, right. And then
you snatched her box and.
It was like a 10-minute conversation about her life. Like she's
in English or Italian?
In English.
She's used the A words. You're like, I want to press you, Danielle. I want to love you.
She's from northern Italy. She moved to Amsterdam when she was a little bit younger. Prostitution's a great way to pay the bills, apparently.
Dude, and now it is during COVID. You know, OnlyFans people like wish they were in Amsterdam to make that kind of buck.
Oh my god! And well, the thing that's fucked up is the rental space for those windows is super expensive. Like, obviously. Like, so
it's
basically,
like a barbershop in a gentrified neighborhood. You know?
Up to a certain point in the night, those women are literally earning their keep. I mean, you have to pay every night. You got to hit like a certain, okay, here's my rental fee for this window space for however long I'm going to stay here. I better fuck like 25 dudes. Otherwise, I'm not paying for it tonight.
Yeah, that's an interesting structure, like a business structure, because it's like hair salons run on the same business, but it's voluntary. So it's like, imagine if you had, you know what I mean? Like if you had somebody like a barbershop, someone like catcalling you, like, "Hey, yo, you got some like shaggy ass hair, bitch, get it." Like they'd see us, and they're like, "Come on, honey, I know you want to trim."
Dude, it's literally
they're
like that.
Dancing in the window under that, like there's some fucking chubby Dominican guy. He's like, "I'll give you a tight fade, honey." It's like, okay.
I know you want
50
euros.
Nice I cut your hair. Another 50, I take my clothes off. Another 50, I'll jerk you off from behind while I clip your hair with one hand. But yeah, man, my experience in Amsterdam was really fun because we went on a school trip that was part of the whole. This was during my whole. So while I was studying abroad in Germany, I had opportunities to go to different places. And now I have the most regrettable experience there is that I passed up a ski trip to the Alps. Because I didn't know how to ski. And I thought it would be so much harder. I just learned how to ski, and I didn't realize how easy it was going to be. But it was also expensive, and like, I mean, the Alps. They were sending me a panoramic picture, dude. I was
So
like,
yeah,
motherfucker, it looks so fucking good. And now that I know how to ski, like I would love to go to the Alps. But especially those little villages that are the resort villages,
yes,
they look like they're out of a fucking like
storybook.
oh
yeah,
it looks like a fairy tale.
It's
So
like
anyways,
these little portraits.
yeah,
Like, I
dude,
love
it looks
that
like
shit.
that
Yeah.
ancient, like, man, the architecture. I love Eastern European architecture, especially because it's so
Gorgeous.
ancient. Because during World War II, there was so much bombing going on, but the Eastern Europeans gave up so quickly, so they were saved. They were spared.
That was one of the things on Vienna was there's a cathedral, beautiful thing.
Oh, yeah.
Most of it is intact and original. There's a big icon like on the like in like colored shingles
Yeah.
on the top that's of like a German crest and like in the flag's colors and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. It got bombed out during the Second World War,
Damn.
and they had to rebuild it after that.
So same
And,
thing happened in Dresden. Dresden
yes,
is
yeah.
the nearest town over from Prague, basically. So
Yep.
so we stayed ourselves in Dresden and then took a bus over into the Czech Republic, into
That's
Prague
cool.
for the day. We took a day trip because we had a full week. So in Germany, they do this cool thing where it's like either your junior year or your like senior year, basically the version of in America. You take a week-long field trip to
Mm-hmm.
this like location. So I was lucky enough to get into this school just before they took their trip. So I was part of the trip, and I went to Dresden and regrettably kissed some girl who was like the weirdo, and then I got like basically the cheese touch, like directly the gift for
Yeah.
this girl. But that Prague trip was so fun because we went in for a day. We came back out, but while we were there, it was so beautiful. The markets, the little like bazaars that they have,
Yeah.
in the indoor markets, and the
love that shit.
clock tower in like the plaza,
Yep.
with the super
with-
ornate like automatron kind of things.
Did
where
you,
they-
so did you watch when those come out and they dance and stuff like that?
no, but I was kind of studying the different moon phase
Dude,
things and the solar like.
that is the oldest functional astrological clock in the
Whoa,
world.
that's so
It has
cool.
been functioning nonstop since like the 1400s.
Dude, that's
It is.
intense.
They like literally they came up with a way to accurately map the stars
Yeah,
and
man.
and the seasons and put it in a mechanized,
Yep.
never-ending clock tower. And so here's a funny little history fact
Yeah.
for you. There's all these little figurines at a certain, I think it's like 10 a.m. or something. They come out and dance, and they're like literally animatronic, like Chuck E. Cheese robots
Yeah,
from the
man.
1400s.
It's so
Like,
crazy.
and so they're all racist as fuck.
I was literally just gonna ask, like, any of them in blackface? Because
Eh,
it
well-
seems like it would be the kind of thing that's in blackface.
So there's no. It's actually mostly anti-Semitic, but
That makes a lot of sense.
and anti-Turkish. There's one guy who's like some sort of like disparager or something, or like heretic, and he's a Turk, and he's
of
got the
course.
turban. And then there's another guy who is the usurer, and he's got the biggest hook nose and is holding these money bags. It's the most
And he's got
anti-Semitic
horns and shit.
I have ever seen, and he's just like
God love
fucking
him.
standing there, like rubbing his little animatronic Chuck E. Cheese fucking hands together.
Yeah.
And our tour guide just like, yeah, this is pretty anti-Semitic. I never really thought about that before. Yikes. Because there were two girls from Israel in our tour group. Yeah. And it was
They're
just
like, no, we know it's okay.
Yeah.
We understand it. That's why we're here.
they laughed. Like,
Yeah,
because we had
No,
just
you have
seen
to. You're getting bombed every day because you understand
Yep.
anti-Semitism when you have the Iron fucking Dome.
the other fucked up thing
Like,
I
yeah, we're from
noticed
Tel
in
Aviv. We
Europe.
try to club, but Hamas tries to take us out every fucking day.
You see all the plaques around in Europe, the little ones
Yeah,
outside
yeah.
the houses for the Holocaust stuff.
Mhm.
I'd never known that was a thing. It's fucked up when you walk down through like the Jewish quarter of any of those cities in like that part of Europe, and you just see like every house. There's a tiny little placard with a Star of David, and there's like 4 or 5 names etched into it, and they're just all people who were fucking torn out of their homes,
Yeah,
killed, and
Crystal knock shit.
and now it's a fucking Gucci store. Like literally, there's
I
this
didn't
one.
think that's where that story. was
It's
gonna
so bad. There's this one street in Prague. It's all the high end Louis Vuitton, like all the high end shops. It used to be the Jewish
go.
Quarter.
Please tell me there's not a Hugo Boss store. Please tell me there's.
Of course, there's
Oh, dude.
I don't know, maybe,
Isn't
but
it
like
crazy that none of these brands have changed from Nazi
No.
ownership?
no.
Volkswagen. You know what
Yep,
Volkswagen
yeah,
means?
the People's Wagon.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of people they're talking about. And they're great cars, but Germans make, that's the problem, man. Germans make great things. And I think someone that we
Mustafa.
know, has great
Shout
joke
out to
about that.
Mustafa.
Yeah, German engineering is a hell of a thing because, they had to engineer the final solution.
Yeah.
But
Oh yikes! I didn't mean to agree so enthusiastically with
yes,
that.
They did. And they should keep which is interesting. I learned that like the plan that was written out in Mein Kampf, like to expand Hitler's whole plan was to expand into the Soviet Union
Mm-hmm.
to take up what they would call the Black Earth, which is the really rich soil on the steppes of Russia, so that Germany could seize control of farming and have their own like
God, food
world.
supply. Yeah.
so they don't have to worry about importing from other countries, and they could have an isolated like North
Yeah.
Korean-esque.
Yeah.
And so
Fucking psychotic. I love the idea of self-sufficiency, but like individual level.
Yeah.
You don't need a fucking state.
but also
Like-
here's the thing, man, is they promised the soldiers food for their family, and this was right after the Depression and all that stuff,
Yeah.
right? They march into the Soviet Union with great gusto.
Looking for food.
They're looking for food, and they get there, dude, and it's like, yeah, there's grain, but there's not nearly as much as Hitler promised.
I hope you like waiting in line.
Yeah, exactly. They just eventually it just connected with the bread lines, and they're like, "This is a really big line." They're like, "No, we just got here. God damn it, party of eight. Yes, we're taking Himmler. Yes, party of 8 million. Okay, I'm sorry. So we're gonna take Dostoevsky.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they didn't have as much food as promised. They lost all their momentum in the winter trying to march into the Soviet Union,
Jesus
which
Christ.
apparently the Greeks actually held them back for long enough where it got to winter.
The Greeks?
Yeah, I mean, they fucking all died from Nazi occupation, but they held them back just long enough where the winter started to hit. So it's like if the Greeks didn't make them lose that much momentum, they wouldn't be stopped. So anyways, then their supply chain started to fall apart behind them because there wasn't as much food. People started dying off. So that's when Hitler and all of his people started to kick in the final solution because they couldn't afford to keep people going. So they starved out their Soviet prisoners. Then they started starving out the work camps.
Damn.
And that's what was the charging up of all these concentration camps actually killing people off because they couldn't afford
to feed them.
Yeah, to feed
shit.
them. And
Wow.
because the original idea for the solution was to create a separate state for Jews to be emigrated to be exiled to. Like Himmler
Where
came
have
up.
I heard that before?
Yeah, I know.
It's almost like the entire post-war order, like the IMF and the World
Yep.
Bank and all of those
World Bank,
institutions
dude.
were by
If
design.
anyone says World Bank unironically, you know they have some shit to talk about. You know they have opinions.
Yeah, you want to hear what I think about the Federal Reserve?
No one knows.
Yeah.
No, but that's the thing. Himmler came up with the idea of what is now Israel.
Yeah.
And
The-
it's
people don't
crazy.
know this. People don't know that the Nazis came up with the entire like game plan for how to have a universal post-war international order because that was their plan. We want to take over the world and we want to make sure everything happens in a predictable fashion everywhere. And instead of them doing it, we did it.
Oh, yeah.
With their people.
And you know who the Nazis teamed up with? A natural enemy of the Soviet Union, and they teamed up with the Middle East.
Yeah.
They teamed up with the Muslims in the Middle East because the Germans said we have a common enemy with the Arab man, the Jews, and the Soviets, and and the British too.
Yeah.
So like, no, actually it was the British and the Jews, and then Stalin and Hitler made an agreement, and then Hitler was like, "Oh, I got you," and Stalin was like, "Ooh, I got you."
Pact.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then they went against each other, and it's funny because Stalin extended Hitler so much grace, saying like, "He's not gonna do it, guys. Like, I know he's like the crazy friend.
He's cool. He's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
Believe me.
He's like, no, it's okay." And then everyone's telling him, "Dude, no, he's gonna try to go for it." He's like, "He's not that stupid. Like, he's so small." And then finally, like, even up to the very moment there was an attack happening, he's
So
like,
small.
"We can figure something out." And then, well, like population.
Yeah, no, I know. It's just funny because
It's like, think about, if you're playing a game of Risk, you own half the board, and you're like, all right, dude, we're gonna be against those other guys, right? And they're like, yeah. And then they're
fuck
like,
it. Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna take all of my 2 like things and kill all of you, and then so then they break the promise and all that shit, and
Yep.
but they teamed up with the Muslims because they were like, we have a common enemy in the Jew, and I'm like, dude, the Jew. I was talking to my girlfriend about this the other day, and she was like, well, isn't Islam older than Judaism? And I was like, no, in the Quran it says that Jesus was a false prophet, the Jews were wrong, and the Savior was like all this shit, and it's like Islam is like the little brother to like
Yeah.
all the monotheistic
Yeah.
religions, which is
600 years later. Like,
which doesn't make it bad. It's just funny that like it seems more ancient.
it seems very
because the
historic.
architecture, the Renaissance, but Jews have been around forever. Like it's so fucking old, and they've only ever been persecuted.
Yeah,
You know-
it's so fucking
Do you know
unfortunate.
why Hasidic Jews dress the way they do? Is to celebrate, I believe, 15th century Polish nobles. Probably the most successful time for Jews in all of
shit.
history. Dressed like that. You know what I mean? Like that would be like your dad like dressing up in his like old like basketball uniform in like the good old days. You know what I mean? But like centuries later, because it's a celebration of wealth to
It's like
them.
those guys down south who wear who do the Civil War reenactments.
Oh
and
yeah.
fucking-
But so they wear that as a sign of wealth and prosperity. Like this is when our people were doing really well, and they hold on to that tradition because
that's
they.
fucking fascinating.
But because they hold on to tradition so hard, dude, the Jews are hard to fucking. You can't.
I love their facial hair.
You knock them down, and they just keep coming back up.
It's
man.
true.
And
I've
they're-
always admired the shit out of
stay
the
on
Jews.
the top of their shit, and they're so like culturally connected to like a history. That's why like And also, like, when
That's
people are like,
wild,
oh,
yeah.
Jewish isn't a race, but it's like, yeah, it is. It kind of has to be when you have the same people that have been exiled over and over and over again. They kind of stay close.
Yeah.
They don't trust a lot of other people.
The reason it's so cool is because, like, usually in humanity we talk about culture, and you have, you know, like race, religion, those are all aspects of culture. With the Jewish population, it is all integrated into one community
Yeah, dude.
of like, you know, history, and that's super fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like most other people don't have that history.
Oh yeah,
And
like Americans would be like, I'm Irish, so I make like shepherd's pie, and
Yeah.
like I stay connected to my culture. It's like you're as Irish as like,
my dad bought me a Claddagh ring when I
Yo,
was 13.
or those bros who get like the Irish knot cross.
Yeah,
on their
oh my
arm. It's
God.
like, oh my god, dude. It's like, I don't know, but then that makes us think too, right? Where we visit in other countries that is the West Virginia. You know what I mean? Like,
I got one of those.
Yeah, please, because that
yeah.
like stuck in my brain. I'm like, because West Virginia is
Yeah.
objectively beautiful, but none of us would want to go there.
So when we were in Czech Republic,
Yeah.
one of the things we did one of the days was we took a train all the way out in a bumfuck countryside to go to a little town called Kutná-Hora, which is there's a church there, this medieval church that's literally the entire inside of it is made out of human bones. The entire thing is thousands and thousands and thousands of human skeletons
Dude, it's
that
like
have
an
been
above-ground
dismembered.
catacomb.
Yes, it is literally. Well, actually, it's kind of underground, I guess, because you walk in.
It's kind of
and-
underground. You've never
but
heard of
there's-
it.
I'm gonna
If
see
you
if I
like
can
the church
find
so
a
much,
picture
name
for
7
you.
of their albums.
There's literally a chandelier that is
Bones.
completely made of all these different human bones.
That sounds like some wildling shit,
It was some of the coolest and most savage shit
dude.
I have ever. There it is. This is the chandelier.
Oh my god, send that to me. I'm gonna put it in
Yeah,
post on
I
the
will.
video podcast. But
I have yeah I
That's
can't get
intense,
those
dude.
because I fucking so all my photos from that trip are on my old phone, which is
Yeah, yeah,
fucking
oh, I have some old photos that I got saved, and I have some video from Germany I want to show you.
hell yeah.
Because I went to the first town I stopped in was called Celle, which was like a royal town, right? And so they had this kind of like celebration, like this king's festival. Because there's a castle in the middle of town, and there's a moat around it, and then the town square is right there.
No
and
shit.
So dude, everything's so fucking ancient there. So what's important about this royal place, Celle, it's like near Hanover. It's in the very north of Germany. Is that German or like the king of that area took a French queen, and the French queen was very homesick and she missed the flowers that grew in her palace back in France. So he had them imported to this specific town, and they only bloom for 1 week during September.
Wow.
And they have, dude, this place is so fucking cool, man. I want to show you it so bad. They have a very specific honey that's made from those flowers only during that time of the year, and they love. The queen also wanted them to bring bees over. They have old beehives. One of them is a statue of a woman, like a giant like totem statue of a woman, and her heart is where the bees fly in and out of to make
Oh
their
my
hive.
God.
So her back is flat. You can imagine like a chocolate Santa
Yeah.
where the back is completely
Yep.
flat. It's hollowed out, and it's like a giant beehive, like an organic beehive.
That's so cool.
And they have a field of beehives, and they even have a bee institute, the Bienen Institute, which is that's
a cool name,
like,
yeah.
Biene is like one, Bienen is multiple. Bienen Institute, which is they study wax properties and honey and like pollen production and
Damn.
like bee populations, and they have like activities and fairs. And you know, in America, if you had a bee institute, it would be a caged exhibit,
Yep.
plexiglass to say because some kids are allergic to bees. They're fucking nothing, dude. Bees flying everywhere, and they're just like, it's okay, it's natural. They just
Yeah.
let them land on you. They're very gentle. You just do not disturb them, and they'll be okay. And they are, and they
Yeah.
just behave like bees because bees
Yep.
like are part of nature. And as long as you don't fuck with them, they don't sting you, and they're fine. And it's
One of my buddies
beautiful.
raises honeybees, and it's like he was explaining that to me. They're just very
They're
peaceful.
just chilling
Like,
out
yeah.
there, and dude, and it was so fucking cool. And I have so much video that I want to show you from this place. I might cut some in, dude. This podcast is gonna be great. We need to keep talking about
Yeah.
Europe. I
Yeah.
kept a video journal for 8 months when I was in Germany. Every
shit.
day, every single day, I made a 5-minute video about what happened. Dude,
That's fucking
it got
sweet.
and I look back on it,
I
dude.
wish I did shit like that.
I want to go look back on it, man, because I started it on New Year's, right? I was there since September, but I started on New Year's, and I have every day I was in Germany from New Year's all the way until I came back in July.
Wow.
And
That's a hell of a fucking collection, man.
yeah,
Nice
because
shit.
I brought like a camcorder with me, like a shitty little camcorder, but I have so much good footage that I finally get to use, dude. I was always wanted to use that footage, but
Yeah.
it was really personal, so I
Yeah.
couldn't just upload.
yeah.
There's some shit about my relationship,
Oh, yeah.
about like girls I fucked there. It's
Dude,
like not good
I have,
stuff.
I have a whole fucking notebook of shit I wrote
Yeah.
on that trip.
But there's like I
Like-
want to show you this video because it's hard to explain how cool it is. There's so many cool little towns like those bone churches.
Oh
where
yeah,
there's,
dude. So one of the cool things about that little place, sorry, I just wanted to finish
No,
this
yeah,
thought
please.
before we move on, was like it was the weirdest collection of shit that they had in that town. Like these old like like monoliths and stuff in the village center or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and then there was a Philip Morris factory like right outside the town.
Czechs love cigarettes, man.
Oh,
Czechs
that-
love cigarettes.
I had quit smoking for like 8 months.
That's where I smoked my first
until-
cigarette was Prague.
First time.
First
Damn.
cigarette was a click and roll.
Really?
Yeah, and I got
Damn.
more to talk about on that, but
Yeah.
like, please go on with about that because it's really fucking dope.
Yeah, no, we like so we're walking around this town. We walk by the Philip Morris factory. I was like, I gotta go in there. Like I love Philip Morris. And then we got some food and stuff. But that whole place, like once you get into the populated area, it's all Soviet bloc architecture.
I
Like
love it.
like so
I love
all of the apartments. Like it literally, you ever play Call of Duty, the original
Yeah.
Modern Warfare?
Yeah.
You know when you're like walking through Chernobyl and they have all those apartment buildings? It
Yeah,
literally looked like that shit. It was just like these like weird 1950s through 70s style like fucking strange apartment buildings with like the shitty Soviet balconies and the fucking like little tiny potted plants with dead things coming out of them. I saw the biggest motherfucking bee I've ever seen in my life in
Chernobyl
Kootenai.
bee?
Actually, it was
Noble?
motherfucker. It was like before the whole murder hornet thing.
Yeah.
It was literally this big. I was sitting there with my
God
buddy
damn.
smoking a cigarette after we walked through the thing. We were just like, what the fuck? I
Damn,
freaked out.
dog.
Yeah, that. And so when we went out there on the train, we accidentally took it to the wrong stop. The conductor, we were like really like nervous about like going to the right place because
Yeah.
we're in the Czech. Once when you're in the cities, everyone speaks English. Once you get outside, it's a fucking crapshoot. We don't speak Czech because Czech is an indiscernible fucking
Yeah,
like-
it's a subset of
Russian,
Russian,
hillbilly Eastern
yeah.
European language.
It's
it's-
Cajun.
It's literally
It's Cajun
it is the
Russian.
that's a great description.
Yeah,
It's
I
so-
always use Cajun because it's
Yeah.
like Cajun. We have, but I have. To talk
it's like
about other-
Cajun if they use Cyrillic letters, like and
Dude, try to imagine a fucking Cajun, like a Cajun American looking person, like a down south good old boy, but like speaks Russian because they
fucking-
both love guns.
yeah.
They both hate the government.
I was gonna say like everyone always talks shit about Russia like that, like as like a
People are a fascinating
Yeah.
bunch.
yeah. There's just a lot of crazy individualists out there that I
Yeah,
think
man.
would get really along with like the
Disciplined
whole
people.
American thing. Yeah,
Fucking like Lex Friedman and shit.
yep. Dude, I
Dude.
love Lex Friedman.
He's great. I got a buddy that almost got a fucking job interview with him.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Dude, and that's crazy. Like, if you don't know who Lex Friedman is, just listen to what I just said. A guy who is excited to almost get a job
Yeah.
interview with him.
Yeah, I was excited to hear that he almost got like his
Yeah.
friend got. That's crazy.
Yeah, because like, oh man.
He
But
must be smart.
yeah, well, he's into computer engineering, but he's Malaysian, and actually, like, he doesn't have a green card yet, and he studied here, so he's
Damn.
actually, yeah, him and one of our mutual friends. I actually just went to his place. He's a fucking amazing cook too. But him and our mutual friend, which is why I know him, are getting married, so he can get his green card
Oh,
and
really?
stay here. Yeah,
Oh, cool.
because
That's
right
awesome.
now during COVID, if you're a foreign person,
They love each other. They're getting married because they love each other.
oh yeah, certainly, and I have evidence that they've been together for a very long time. They've been together since I've known her. Like they have a
Yeah.
dog together, they have a house together. Like, dude, they fucking deserve to be. My parents are divorced, all right. So can I get one of them deported because this fucking bullshit that we have to lead with love when it comes to green card? You fucking assholes, dude. Like, you're the ones who made marriage a fucking
Yeah.
state-sponsored institution.
It can
It's
be a
not my
financial
fault.
arrangement. Why
Yeah.
can't it be a fucking?
Do you want to watch me
immigration
when I
arrangement?
like consummate my marriage? You fucking puritanical cunts. Just
I
let
mean,
me live
it
here.
is the FBI. They do love spying on
Yeah,
people who have sex.
Yeah, but no, but he's a fucking smart guy. He's fucking brilliant. But I completely lost my train of thought. Oh, the Russians make great people.
Yeah.
And you were talking about Czech, but in Germany they have so many different dialects too because they're bordered by so many different countries. As you get closer to each of the borders, you get different crossbreeds, kind of like a Catalan, like between
Yes,
Spanish and
yeah.
French. So there's this. Probably the most known in Germany is Schwäbisch, which is between. It's like in Dresden. It's a mix of like, or no, sorry, not near Dresden, but it's on the border of Poland and Germany. It's the Polish German crossover. It's called Schwäbisch.
Interesting.
I almost spelt it in German. They say Z like Zet, so
Yeah.
it's ZWEIVBISH.
Sounds Polish to me.
yeah. So it's really cool. And there was this girl that I knew that her grandma like raised her, and she was Schwäbisch, and because Schwäbisch is like its own thing. It's like saying Cajun, you know,
Yeah,
because it's such a
Catalan,
crossover.
like you said,
exactly.
yeah.
It's such its own thing that she was raised by her grandma in like that area, like Swabia, I think it's called, or something like that. and when she gets drunk, it comes out, and it's hilarious.
I love
Because
that
like
shit.
even to my ear, I can hear where she's from. You can when you spend it long enough in a place, you can hear where people are from. In the north, they're like the uppity New England people where they say they don't have an accent. It's called Hochdeutsch, which is like High Deutsch, like High German. Like it's proper. It's
This
like
is how German is supposed to sound.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then you get down to the south, and it's like, no, Junge, it's egal, du. Das ist
Yep.
egal, Junge.
Sounds
Like
very
they drop.
familiar.
It's very in the
Yeah.
back of the throat. It's very like, I don't know what it is. Like, why is it the south of every country is like the more like laid back?
Dude, that's like in Italy. If you hear my mom speak Italian, like that was her first language was Sicilian, which is not technically Italian.
Yeah, that's the thing. And also
it's
too,
a
the
total
Sicilians
dialect.
are not even
Yeah.
Italian. Like, the
No.
Italians and Sicilians do not identify with one another.
Well, so she actually did her ancestry shit,
Uh-huh.
like to just find out, because we're one of those like, oh, we're 100% Italian. Like my grandmother, my grandfather came over from Italy.
Yeah.
Whole nine.
You talking
fucking,
some true romance shit? Like your
Yeah,
father
yeah.
was an eggplant.
Exactly. Yeah. Like she goes back and come to find out, like there's a bunch of Turkish in there. There's some Ashkenazi in there.
Oh, yeah.
There's some fucking like
A
because
lot of refugees.
yeah, I mean it's Sicily. Like Sicily literally got taken over by every single
yeah.
fucking major power in world history. It's like a who's who of like conquering powers
exactly.
in my bloodline.
Yeah, man, it's insane to kind of cross connect, which is why I think cultural appropriation is such a bullshit concept.
Stupid.
Because you go to these countries and you see what cultural appropriation gets you. It gets you beautiful architecture in like beautiful languages, dude. I went to Cologne, which I don't call it Cologne because like it's Köln, which is just so much easier to say. Well, it's Köln. It's K-O with an umlaut and
Vienna is
L-L.
Wien. Like yeah.
Yeah. It's so much
all
simpler.
weird shit,
So much simpler than Cologne. But that's where the first Cologne came from, which also
Interesting.
Faust wrote the book Perfume. It's a German book. It's a German show. There's a show and there's a German like murder mystery show called Perfume now. I'm watching. It's fucking good. Dude, there's an opening shot as a kid running through a field with like a strand of like red hair, and he's like playing with it, and you're like, that's kind of fucking weird. And he gets to it, and they get like run across the farm. And they're in the house, and the dad's like, what are you playing with? And he tries to grab it from it, and the kid pulls it away, and his hand's full of blood. And he's like, what the fuck? And he runs back across the farm to this, like, guest house, and this woman is, like, murdered naked in her pool with, like, her head shaven and,
Jesus.
like, a slice of skin taken out of her armpit and shit.
Oh, my God.
And that was how
some
the show
German shit.
opened.
Yeah.
Dude, German shows are good. German shows I recommend is Perfume, because I didn't even get through one episode. Dark. Dark is a great fucking show. It's about... it's my favorite sci-fi, but I can't explain what the show is even about without spoiling it.
Ooh.
But it's like a darker, way better German Stranger Things.
Okay.
About like corruption in like a small town with like a huge like
corporation.
Yeah. But the sci-fi element is so good. But you really, and I hate when people say this, you have to get through a couple episodes to get to where it is. It starts with a kid disappearing, but it's like how he disappeared and where he disappeared to is the best part.
Damn, that's
it's
cool.
basically what drives the rest of the show. So you have to get to finding out how he. But anyways, Germany's fucking dope. They have different accents, different dialects, and like cultural appropriation should be embraced. Cultural crossover is what I would celebrate because it's like when I take your shit, it's like I'm gonna take it back home. It's like that's why there's Christians in Mongolia.
That's why
there's
you can
like
get amazing pad thai in Great Britain.
That's why there is Duna. Why there's like Germanized Turkish food. You know.
Yeah, you get like. That shit is what makes humanity human. The fact that we can look across those cultural divides and say, "Oh, that's fucking sick." Like I want to use that.
Oh yeah.
Like
man.
I mean that's how you build more. You know.
Yeah,
what I mean?
and I understand that some companies are just like completely oblivious and they just like repurpose people's like cultural things and try to sell them, and that's just a
How
symptom
about what
of
every
capitalism.
corporation in America does with Pride Month?
Oh, Pride Month, Black Lives
History
Matter.
Month, yeah,
Oh,
Black
forget
Lives
about it.
Matter, yeah, same deal. Like it's
dude, how is JP Morgan like we support Black Lives Matter? He's like, bro, you have like driven more communities of like color into desperation and redlining. Like, if I trace you back far enough, I'm sure that you insured a slave ship sometime.
You'll appreciate this story.
Please do.
At our graduation at Fordham, I used to play in the band.
Okay.
So I would sit up there for graduation. I did it all 4 years. And for ours, it was sponsored by JP Morgan. And they had like a whole announcement before. I didn't realize that, being in the band, like I knew we were mic'd. I didn't realize we were hot mic'd.
Uh-oh.
So I start talking mad shit about
baby.
JP Morgan.
Go off,
just
sis.
like
I want that video.
Yeah, just like these fucking banker cocksuckers think they can just come in here and
what year did you
sponsor.
graduate?
2017.
Oh.
So I was just like, I was fucking, I was mad. Like I just watched The Big Short, and like
yeah, exactly.
And,
you get a little hot
yeah,
take.
I'm talking some shit, just like making my friends in the band like laugh, and all of a sudden the director of the band comes up and he goes, "Mike, you're on a mic right now. Everybody can hear what you're saying. And I look out at this sea of like 10,000 people on the fucking like the whole lawn all backed up, and I was like, all right, like I'll be quiet.
What do you do, motherfucker?
Yeah.
But
biggest crowd I've ever played.
if you had a mic, if you had a podcast by yourself, mic on mic is probably a good one.
I like that.
But you got me, so I don't know. I was thinking, Can We Be Friends?
I like
it's a good
that.
one because I always like made friends really easily when I was a kid, and I would always just meet strangers.
Can we
like,
be
could
friends?
we be friends?
Yeah.
But then if we ever had guests on, and if we did have guests, we'd have to come to my house.
Yeah.
Then we could
Yeah.
do like an interview style where we have like we engage them and like try to find out more about them for the people who are listening. But it's also like, could we be friends?
Yeah, I like that.
Could we be friends? I like that one.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. But no, Germany's dope. I wanna just go back and just visit. I was trying to go back with my grandma, but then Corona hit. We planned to go in Christmas because man, Christmas in Germany's fucking dope. Like Christmas and New Year's, you have to be in Germany. Forget Oktoberfest. Fuck Oktoberfest. Oktoberfest is like the Wicked on Broadway. Just out the getting Wicked tickets in Times Square is like going to Oktoberfest in Munich. And every little state has their Oktoberfest, but Oktoberfest is not what you go to Germany for. You go for Pfingsten, you go for festivals in February.
That's what they have all those markets and shit, right? The Christmas markets
Christmas
and stuff.
markets.
Yeah.
Weihnachten is Weihnachtsmarkten. Those are dope, dude. You go to Frankfurt, man, the kind of culture you can get from there. The Christmas markets, they're like open air markets in like snowy little villages around every town has their own. They're like little crafts fair. They sell fucking homemade shit like tables and like it's not Christmas related. It doesn't have to be Christmas related. It's where you go to buy presents because it's based off the tradition where people would put up posts and like of art things like because toys aren't like a necessity, especially to a German. So they're like you go and that's a special occasion. You go there, you drink Glühwein, which is like mulled wine, dude. It's fucking great. And if you can get some from the liquor store, I know, but then you can spike it with like other shit too. But for me, the taste brings me back. The taste brings me back immediately. That and like Paulaner Oktoberfest, that beer, it's a fest beer. It's like no head on it, you know, so when they can just pour it and there's just nothing. That just brings me back those like sense memories.
Dude, the smells for me are huge. If I smell like cigarettes and like smoking ham, like I don't know what it is, but that instantly transports back to Prague.
I've ever
heard. like just like honestly, it's like cigarettes and certain combinations of smells. Like if I'm sitting outside a bar, sometimes you can smell the food cooking from outside, and I'm smoking a cigarette, I have a beer in my hand. I'm just like I close my eyes and I'm just fucking back there, dude. Like sitting outside a cafe, fucking.
We need to take a trip to Europe.
We really should. Hey, dude, this COVID shit's fucking it up because like some of these places you're gonna have to have a vaccine to go, and honestly, like
I've heard about vaccine passports.
I'm not big on that.
We need to have a separate episode just about conspiracy theories around Corona because I feel like these governors are just seizing. I mean, it's no secret. Like, look, I'm not of the belief that this was constructed in a lab. I'm of the belief it was being tested in a lab and they had really poor security measures.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm also of the belief that it was not released intentionally, but
it's capitalized on.
Of course, the politicians' favorite phrase: "Don't let a good crisis go to waste." Yep. You know what I mean? They use the fucking Oklahoma building to encroach on our very new internet rights, like the Clinton administration. Bush used 9/11 to encroach on our like privacy rights and other stuff. Like, and they create the Patriot Act, which at the time people, you know what the biggest concern when the origin of the Patriot Act was? Why are we going to let the government see which library books we checked out?
Right.
This was before we started cataloging our digital footprint of our heartbeat. Literally. Like people who have Apple Watches. It's fucking
psychotic.
Dude, your heartbeat when you look at an Instagram ad, like that shit is connected.
I know.
And that's why it's like I'm really hoping, and I know this is like a hopes of hopes, that Tim Cook is using Apple to to advocate for privacy. Because right now, Apple's on a huge kick of locking their information down. An iPhone, like you hear the stories about like FBI threatening legal action against people in like corporate of Apple for not releasing terrorist like iPhone iMessages and shit like that. But it's like that's important. Like we need corporate structures because I'm hearing articles about how Amazon can start their own countries now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude.
How there's gonna be like Google Island where they behave in the boundaries of their own law.
Yeah,
and then
they're going to like, and you know why? Because like. Anyone who attains that level of power, especially these Silicon Valley fucks, and here's a terrifying thing. These people are people who, you know, like, and, you know, both of us do stand up, like, you know, social critique.
Oh, by the way, my name is Gage Moore.
Shameless plug.
Wait, hold on a second. I need to see how long we've been recording.
Yeah, right. It's been a minute. Go for it. Yeah.
And now we're back from me taking a piss, and that reminds me that now let's get into the conspiracy theories.
Hell yeah.
Because I know you're a conspiracy guy.
I am a conspiracy guy.
And I definitely watched Loose Change, and I was into like and also I like science and stuff like that too. So like I like searching for answers. You know what I mean? Like I learned that jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams, but it doesn't have to.
No.
Because the way that it collapsed, it actually softens the metal. It buckled, and then when it did buckle and it finally gave way, it just fell. And
no, I mean I don't like. I'm not one of those like, oh, there's no plane, you know what I mean? Like a fucking like, and I don't even know that I believe the whole like Bush did 9/11 thing. But for me, the way I look at it is like, there's a very clear capitalization on every element of that, and that's what we should focus on. Is the fact that, like, we use this to justify, like you were talking about before with the Patriot Act, the complete end of privacy rights in terms of communication in America. And furthermore, if you like, I think it gets even more heinous when you get into the Obama administration with the National Defense Authorization Act.
Yeah.
When you start looking at FISA courts and shit like that, the fact that we have secret courts where the federal government can get warrants to do whatever on anybody in the world, mostly American citizens too, and those do not become public record, so that the target can't know that it's a violation of every constitutional right that you have in terms of fair due process. And for some reason it's legal because we've decided that national security exemptions. And here's the thing, like I hate having to preface this by saying this because it seems like you have to. I'm not like, a Trump guy or anything. It's never been.
I'm glad Trump's out of office now because now like people don't veer that shit to AC, who's a clown, and like while people were in office. While people were like, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing that people neglect to think about you is it's like you are going to criticize every government.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like you're not like I'm so glad Trump's in. It's like no, he is the problem now. And he is the.
And one problem with him, which is I don't think he got a fair shake on this, was that the Obama administration, like the whole Obamagate thing, like it got blown up into be like this sort of meme of it. That shit was real.
Oh yeah.
They got a FISA warrant to wiretap the president-elect of the United States based on a false document, a document that they knew the people who presented it to the court knew it to be false at the time, or at the very least dubious, and they did so anyway because they wanted to have political leverage going into the beginning of his administration to undermine him publicly.
Yeah.
Like that shit is fucked up, and that's why. The whole, I have nothing to hide, what are you worried about, is stupid because...
like, why worry if you have nothing to hide thing is like it's so Soviet propaganda.
It is. When you give them that power, they're going to use it for their own ends. It's not like it's going to stop it just like, we have to protect everybody.
Does. With the COVID tracking and shit, when people were like, they're just going to use it so they make sure that... And I was like, you think they're going to stop, man? Like, the
all
moment they have an app...
down their ex-girlfriends, fucking, like...
Dude, I'm getting like... I opened my phone and like Amber Alerts like overtake it kind of like it's required by law to like take over your system and like has to show you it. Like I got an overtaken message to download this Connecticut COVID tracking app.
Fuck that.
At least they gave me the option, but it was kind of creepy that like they somehow told some phone provider to make sure it sent me a message to have a link to download an app. It's like
I'm good.
It's sus. It's very sus because it's like I don't know why. It's like the government cares so much about controlling our lives in this particular instance, but there are so many instances where they let us down when we really needed them. There's communities that are let down every fucking decade by their governments, but now they're talking about, someone brought up a really good point about like communities of color getting like, all these politicians are like, we're going to make sure that our communities of color get these vaccines as soon as possible. It's like, oh, so you want to experiment on the black people?
Yeah,
but you're not going to give us, you're not going to get, and it's like, here's the thing. I'm not anti-vax. I fucking love science. But it's like scientists also, talk about, we should give things grace period. This is the fastest we've ever made a vaccine.
With a brand new platform.
Type. Yeah, completely new kind. It's like, if this is new software, I don't want to download it onto my PC.
It might crash. It might not work.
Dude, did you just hear the clip about Biden saying that like kids don't get COVID? Shit
I
that
didn't
Trump
hear
got
about that.
okay, so shit that Trump got slammed about.
Yeah.
Where they're like, how dare you? You're sending the wrong message. Everyone is in danger. There was just a town hall where a mom stood up and said, like, I have two kids, one's 5, one's 7. This is my 7-year-old right here, and she's super, super terrified to get COVID. And Joe Biden gets down and like smells her hair, first of all, of course.
Classic Joe Biden.
Traditional greeting. But then explains to her, no, honey, kids can't get COVID. You're not going to worry about spreading it to your mom. or getting it from mommy to you, and we're just going to make sure that mommy's okay and everything's going to be okay. So it's like he admitted it, and it's like this is something we knew. Like swine flu really affected kids. We watched out for those kids. I don't know why
That's why they closed all those schools whenever there was an outbreak.
I don't know why Corona specifically. Do you have any? You know what? It's because of Trump.
No, well,
it's because Trump's in office.
Yeah.
Like,
so this is my like controversial thing. When it goes back to Pfizer stuff I was talking about, when he talks about the deep state, he's not like the right wingers aren't talking about like, you know, this like sinister hand wringing cabal of people. It sounds like that.
Yeah.
But they just mean is entrenched bureaucrats.
Yeah, deep is not a way of like out of the public view. Deep is as in they've been there for so long. They've really like
it's the same way the CIA has their own foreign policy. And like whatever happens in terms of like the incoming administration, CIA foreign policy does not change, and in fact 9 times out of 10 the administration's foreign policy is going to change to the CIA's policy.
Yeah,
that's what the deep state is. It's that idea that these bureaucracies become more powerful than the elected positions that theoretically control them.
Yeah, like
and so,
center, like centrists now, they're the
most dangerous fucking people.
The centrists are endless war and corporate bailouts.
Because that's what keeps
like,
the machine turning.
Yeah,
that's what keeps it. And
so Eisenhower was the first one to mention the military industrial complex, and not until Trump was that referenced again. I'm not saying Trump is politically savvy enough to understand how to deconstruct, because no one has. From Eisenhower to Trump, it still was a thing, but no one talks about that. That's how we run our country.
No, and the big thing with this, with the whole to go back to what brought us into this was with the whole COVID thing, was that when you have a pandemic level, you know, biological problem, media wise. Like for the 24-hour news media, that's a gold mine because people are fucking germaphobes.
Social media too.
And you can pump that shit out at them every day. You might die. Here's a new test we have. Here's a new study we have. This study says this many people get it. The overload of that information, by the way, much of which turned out to be inaccurate because just like any other data, it's early and there's no way to tell whether you have repeatability and all this other stuff until you get more.
Yeah.
What you end up getting is a perfect storm for a politician, because you can say, look at this crisis, look at what's going on. This person who's in charge of everything is making this worse. And what was fucked up about this was the U.S., nobody's saying this other than like, you know, the fucking lunatic, you know, storm the Capitol type people. And I don't know why. We got held hostage. We literally, as a country, if you look at the states in which it happened, everything shut down. The economy, which was fucking raging going into this thing, got absolutely tanked because all these businesses were forced to close. And then they said, well, we can't stop this until we have someone in office who can fix this problem, who takes it serious, even though the response hasn't changed.
Dude, and they dropped the vaccine the moment he left the office.
It's never will change.
This was never... And look, Trump is a fucking clown. But if you have a bully on the playground and you refuse to like work with the bully in class to like get a project done, like you fail your other classmates in a group project because like, I don't like this guy, so you get an F. What the fuck are you doing? Like, aren't you supposed to work together? And I think bipartisanship has lost its meaning. Tulsi Gabbard is one of my favorite politicians now, even though she's out of politics. Because that's what it does to her. It eats your soul. It
all
spits
these
you
people
out. Because the deep state, the people who've been in there forever, it takes just but a flick of their wrist to just make people disappear. Bernie has been sitting on the sidelines waiting to fucking jump in on the double dutch this whole time, and they won't let him because he's gonna get shit done.
Because every single other person in there is a career-oriented bureaucrat. And
that's the only reason they elected Trump. It was a fuck you vote. He was an outsider. And he was just trying to bump ratings for The Apprentice. And then he's like, wait, am I president now? Fuck. And like he like ended up there because he was just like every egomaniac. Like, you know what I mean?
He's like every other fucking old man who's like, you know what? I could do this shit better than this asshole. Fuck you. And then he gets in there. He's like, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing.
He was the voice of the assholes. He was he was the one who shit. No, you're wrong. You're wrong. Like what we want to scream at our TV. These deep state politicians have been taught to like uphold this kind of etiquette and this kind of demure. Meanwhile, they're bombing brown families and robbing ones that are here too.
That's why I was happy to see Hillary lose. Is because like, you know,
I don't want her to be my first female president.
No, like she's a shitty,
the most anti-feminist president. She defended against Bill Clinton's actual rape allegations, not the coming on Monica Lewinsky's dress and like, oh, the dress, like actual sexual assault, rape, like physical, like while he was in a place of power, and she's like basically gaslighting them and victim blaming
Yeah.
them.
I mean, the problem with Hillary is that like it's like that that Carlin bit where he talks about like how like some feminism ends up manifesting itself in the sense of let's replicate all the shittiest traits of men and like that's Hillary Clinton in a nutshell.
Yeah, well,
She's
it's like the flaws of the 1960s sexual revolution by convincing women you're exactly like men. You should want as much sex as men, and they tell this message to men too. They're like, so go out there, men, take the sex, and they even told men like women do want to have sex as much as you. It's just society's oppressed them, so you have to take it out of them.
Free love, yeah.
And the free love sounds great, but there was so much rape back then because they were like they were socialized. When you talk about rape culture, 1960s sexual revolution was rape culture.
Oh, 100%.
It was a culture of coercion and non-consent because consent doesn't matter if society's been oppressing you for this long. I need to get it out of you. And it's like it's like, but that was an extreme reaction to the fact that women had no place in society when it came to economic freedoms.
Yeah.
And that's what they wanted, but what they were given was this shitty like offering of like, well, you can fuck a lot. It's like I want a stable career. I want to take care of my kids by myself. If I get divorced, I want to make sure I can take care of my family. You fucking
I thought the whole problem with this was just viewing us as a collection of holes, like as opposed to like, and it is, and that's the whole idea of debasing human dignity to just like basic animal desires. Like it's like okay, yeah, we have a lizard brain. We all have a lizard brain. That's not the entirety of what makes us up.
Yeah.
Like we should be striving to be better than those basest instincts.
That's why That's why, and this may be, I don't know how you feel about this. I'm against the death penalty.
Me too.
Because it's too definitive of an act. There have been so many people who were found to be innocent that it should not even exist anymore.
The way I look at it, nobody should be killing people unless the person is trying to kill you and you have no other
Exactly.
choice.
It's not self-defense if you're strapped to a chair.
No.
With like 1,000 volts coursing through your body.
Yeah.
It's like, I think someone put it this way and I've never heard another way articulated that's better than this, is that, of course I want that person dead. If someone like was a pedophile and hurt your daughter or your son or whatever, and like hurt your family, even like robbed your, I mean, like some people that might be like, I want to kill them. We shouldn't have the death penalty because, of course, we all want them to die, but our laws have to be better than us.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Our laws have to be like more morally standing than our base instinct to just want to kill and revenge.
Absolutely.
Because it doesn't bring solace to people.
It doesn't bring anything good except for fucking like a pat on the back for a prosecutor.
Yeah.
To be like, hey, I did that. I got justice. Yeah, and it's not real justice.
No, the justice system, first of all, is a fucking joke, too.
I work in the legal industry. I know. It's...
Because my brother being in jail, like, the way he talks about shit and, like, just the things that are going on and, like, the processes and just how expensive phone calls are, first of all.
Everybody
the privatization
knows.
of prisons. It's like you have private corporations that milk money off of desperate, emotional family members who just want to talk to their family.
Not to mention the slavery aspect of the private prison thing.
Of course, the 13th Amendment is still going strong.
Yeah,
and you punch license plates, and like they were trying to union bust in Baltimore. The trash, I think it was the trash union. It might have been Michigan, but there was some city they tried to union bust with prison labor.
Yeah,
by saying, well, these people collect trash for 13 cents.
But Victoria's Secret and McDonald's both use prison labor and benefit insanely from it.
That's why Orange is the New Black had that panty episode.
Yeah, that is.
That's great. Dude, fuck them.
Both of those companies use basically slave labor in prisons. You know what's the most fucked up thing? You ever hear of Angola?
Yes.
Not the country, the prison. Yeah, in Louisiana.
Oh, no, never mind. Yes.
So yeah.
Yes, I've heard of the country. No, but now you just said in Louisiana.
So yeah. So there's this prison in Louisiana. It's still called Angola. It used to be a plantation called Angola. Because all the slaves came from Angola.
No shit.
And so this prison now is 97 some odd % black. And it uses slave labor, and not only that, they grow food and crops on the grounds of the plantation that the prisoners there pick to this day for 0 to cents on the dollar. This is still going on in the United States in just a different name, and it's institutionalized. That's my biggest pet peeve about Americans. We talk about history repeating itself. Institutionalization of things makes them normal to people.
Yeah.
And people, because something is done with a logo and a stamp of approval and someone nice in a suit and tie standing behind a desk saying that this is the way it goes, this is the procedure, we have these documents. Bureaucracy is the most toxic
it removes
human
you
institution.
From the product that you're trying to consume.
It does. You want to talk about, Marx wants to talk about alienation. bureaucracy is the truest form of alienation. If you have like, that's why I'm not like against like capitalism in its purest sense in terms of a
an
man
honest trade
making
for
something
value.
Exactly because
Women can't be capitalists. That's what he's saying.
okay, I guess I should be a little more inclusive
No,
with
it's
my
okay.
language. I gotta be careful with that shit.
No, that's all right.
But
What, your alcohol problem or? But no, I agree, and that's why I'm against shorting too.
yes, same.
On a grander scale, because I believe I'm a capitalist. I love capitalism because it's a beautiful system of free exchange of ideas for a value that increases something's value.
Yeah.
Right? If I want to sell a bottle of water and you like my bottled water, I'm going to do my best to make the best product for you. I'm raising the value not only of my product and my ideas, but you're raising my value, and I'm giving you something that brings value to your life. You give me more money to reinvest in my company. But shorting is the making of money off of the devaluation.
Yeah.
And these Wall Street guys are incentivized and have historically used their media connections to completely eviscerate companies. That's why the GameStop thing was such a beautiful breath of fresh air, because these fucking Wall Street guys used this technique to short our housing market.
Yeah.
They didn't believe our housing market was the most stable financial market ever. And not only, housing market is where people fucking live.
There's a big reason for that too. I mean, if you look, and here's the toxicity of institutions.
Toxicity. That song.
I like that. There's like, if you look at why they shorted it, is because the subprime loans that were made in the housing market those are government directives. All of those loans were programs from the Clinton administration.
Yeah, trust me, my dad told me plenty about it. He's like, oh, but then the thing is, it's like you talk to these like blue collar people, and the first people to blame is the people who got the mortgage in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I am never going to go after the people who go after like welfare where it's there in front of them, or PPP loans. I don't go after people, because people are people. If you give them an opportunity to get free money, they're going to, because I would, because you would.
Yeah.
So, some maybe are in a better position in your life where you don't have to reach for those kind of things.
Well, if I could take unemployment and sit home and write all day,
yes,
I fucking would in a heartbeat.
Yes. Now I
just have to get laid off.
Yeah, for me, unemployment is not like the job I work, and also because I'm paying off student debt, which I have a lot to talk about, dude. But I work at a job to pay off my student debt.
Talk about some predatory shit.
Oh, dude, and Joe Biden was definitely part of making it so you could never bankrupt from it. Student loan debt is the only debt you cannot go bankrupt on, which is, it's fucked that it's also the one that you can sell to 17-year-olds.
Exactly. It's
like giving credit cards to toddlers who want to buy fucking toys from Ryan Toys Review and say like, oh, but that credit card debt you can't undo. And it's also like, oh, man, but just to finish that point about like corporate structures and banks and shit like that, and the I don't blame people who go after the free shit because it's there. I blame the system that allows people to lose purpose in life by seeking out free things and not giving them.
Yes.
Like, I don't want money. Like, I keep saying this over and over again.
Independence.
Well, that for certainly, for certainly independence. But think about this, right? The people who were hit most during coronavirus, restaurants.
Yeah.
If you want to make money, do you get into the restaurant industry that has 13 to 16% margins, or do you become a fucking stock trader who made the most money they've ever made in the history of the stock market was during the most catastrophic fiscal year to the American people?
Yeah.
If that is not an example of how fucked that we are, and also that companies have slowly said, no, pensions aren't exactly, I think 401k is more our speed, and they've basically outsourced your livelihood after the age of 60 to the market, which plays around with it so much. And
they're like, hey, you got to buy into this too now. No more legislation that affects this shit, because your future is tied to it too. Yeah. That's what that did. That gave the corporate class the ability to take the middle class and say, you guys are now not only are I hate to say this, but are wage slaves during the during the course of your young life, but when you get older, your entire thing comes from that. Doesn't matter what you put in during your life, doesn't matter what you did this. It all matters how our market goes. And if you don't play a role in making that happen better, you're fucked too.
I forgot who said it, but there was a quote that it's like the worst addiction is a paycheck.
Yep.
Because it's like,
absolutely.
I think what's not understood and what keeps being demonized is business. Like, small business is the answer to financial freedoms, because once you start an LLC, even if like us comedians, right? If we wanted to make ourselves an LLC, the opportunities that open up for us to take hold of our retirement, to take hold of our health insurance, to take hold, it's like, we're not taught this in school, but like the way you play the game now is LLCs are how you, because that's how you can, leverage, price, things that cost you. You shouldn't have to pay. We pay for so much out of pocket and don't get rewarded for how it invests into our life.
No,
but businesses, that's the entirety of business. They write off things, and it's because it's building value. So if you want to do something with your life, you need to find a skill, a product, something that you can contribute to society and make that into a business. Like, and I'm not Gary Vee. I'm not like, there's a business in every one of you. There's going to be someone who just gets along flipping burgers, or like where I work, like rolling paper. Because it's like, if you find a place that fits your lifestyle, well, yeah, I roll paper that's used for medical purposes. But, hey. Actually, by the way, I just remembered my very first cigarette was not in the Czech Republic. It was a hand-rolled cigarette by this gorgeous Italian girl with a half-shaved head, and I smoked it to try to impress her because there was two Italian. So with my exchange thing for Germany, it wasn't just Americans.
Yeah.
It was multiple under an umbrella thing. So there were people from South America. There was people from, which, by the way, you want to see something funny? Take one of those trains cross country where they're very quiet and like demure into themselves, and then you get on board with a bunch of Colombians and Venezuelans and fucking and Nicaraguans and stuff, and pretend like everyone's not like burning a hole in the back of your head with their eyes because they're like, what are all these brown Spanish people doing on my train? but I was saying something about debt, and I completely lost my
you're
train.
talking about went abroad.
Yeah, but the PPP loans, going after this shit, the bureaucracy, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, don't blame the people, blame the system, because it's like you're the one who made this structure, and it's like
it's predatory.
It's ridiculous. I'm still paying off student debt right now, and luckily Uncle Joey gave us the fucking no federal
reprieve,
student, which I'm gonna finish paying off my private student debt next month because I got a bonus from work. Nice. Oh, that's my point. LLCs. So it's the only way to have fiscal liberation is through a business ownership, because when you own your business, you own the risk that comes with it, but you also get all of the reward. Like, you get to create something, and you get to help other people, and you get to take the shitty jobs you've worked before and change someone else's life.
Exactly.
And say, I don't want to be treated like I was treated at McDonald's. So when you create a business, it's not just creating a money maker, you create a culture, because you can create a space for someone to build value for you and for them, like a trade. If I do make water bottle, like if I sell water, maybe I want to incorporate my own bottling factory where I make my bottles, and
that's the biggest thing. You're supposed to be making money. Business in its highest form is making money, doing a thing, or providing a service.
Yeah.
Like, or making a thing, like, right, putting value into something, getting value out of it. As opposed to, if your whole business is just money, like, which is unfortunately the way that all investment and hedge fund stuff works. B, and kind of less talked about, corporate structure, you have a fiduciary responsibility to your investors. That means that if you're, if James Lysol makes the Lysol company because he loves getting things clean and he wants to make the best damn cleaning product at this side of the Mississippi, and he does that, and then he incorporates because a bunch of people dump money in because they want Lysol in California too. Yeah. Then what happens is James Lysol's main goal is no longer making the best cleaning product in the country.
It's providing money.
It's providing money, dude, which means everything's out the window, and that's how you get this sellout to China shit.
Let me tell you, bro, because I work in a corporate structure, a multinational paper company that makes paper everywhere in every which way, and my town was the oldest mill. The paper company that it originally was before it was bought out was the oldest stock on the New York Stock Exchange.
Damn.
It was the bedrock of our town. It was like it used to be a lumber mill, then it was like a pulp mill, then it was like a textile mill, and now it's a paper mill and a processing center and things like that. And you get to a certain point, you don't build value. And this is like, if you need any stock tips, if you're looking at companies, don't look for companies that you have to look for good research and development and good value earning product, because you can't make money in a company by cutting the bottom line, by cutting costs. You don't make money. That's a false way to cook the books to make it look like your value is going up.
Yeah, you're just providing a shittier product.
Exactly. The only way to provide more value to your company, which is like a stable investment platform, is to actually make new shit. And it costs more to do that. You have to go out of pocket. But here's the paradigm that no one saw. Well, everyone kind of expected and saw coming, but never realized it would get to this point, which is that in America, at least, and I'm sure in other places in the world too, the paradigm of business is if you're not growing every year, you don't stay in business. And the
Yeah.
only people who can afford to do that are those like Amazon and Target and
Yeah.
Walmart. And you know what doesn't help a business grow every year? When you literally tell them you legally cannot operate your small business.
Yeah.
But you know who can still legally operate their business? Target, Walmart,
Yeah.
fucking Amazon, dude. I mean, and it's insane. It fries my brain to do the gymnastics to figure out how these extremely liberal politicians who say they're for the small guy, they hate corporate overlordship and they hate all this shit, are also the ones that say shut it down. Because now you're emboldening these companies that already have so much money to wait out the storm.
And the answer to that's easy. They don't actually give a shit about any of that.
They don't give a shit about
they,
that.
They say it because they're politicians.
They want compliance.
And yeah,
and they don't want the liability. And the small business owners, they don't contribute to the DNC's fund.
Nope.
They don't contribute to the politicians' pockets. The giant guys
They're
do.
not the ones pulling the strings. Like,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
This is a big thing I thought about too. You were talking way before about the East India Company.
Yes.
British and Dutch.
Yeah. Did I say that on the pod? Yeah, East Indian Trading Company.
Yeah. So they, like, if you look at what those, like, the British government and the Dutch government did with colonial governments
Oh my God.
in relation to the trade of their main company, the East India Companies in either case, what you have is it's the first tangible, real example of lobbying in a really up close and clear way. And that's you have company representatives, because the company makes so much money, using and leveraging the power of the state to establish a market that they have dominance over. And not only that, when you get into that type of colonialism, literally establish influence over the structure and effectiveness of the state apparatus that exists in that area.
Yeah.
And if you look at, like, and this is the craziest part of things, if you look today at what we have going on in the Middle East with our endless wars, in China especially, Hong Kong is a great example of it. Like, you have these same spheres of influence that exist with just multinational powerhouses that have capitalized on the fact that China's government sold out its own citizens and is allowing basically them to be exploited for slave labor and have the environment around them completely destroyed to the point of destroying their health, because that allows them to provide low cost area for business to operate.
Yeah.
And when they do that, you have an endless stream of labor and material goods that you can crank out at a cheap cost to everyone all over the world. And in doing that, China makes itself the most important nation state to the global economic system.
Yeah.
And when you let your corporations run wild like this, the only reason that happens is because of lobbying, and because, you know, they're the ones whose money gets these people elected in the first place.
Yeah, man.
So when you let that whole cycle just continue and continue and continue, like, this is why we have the geopolitical problems we have. This is why someone like Trump gets in office, because all those factory jobs, all that, we don't make anything in America anymore. He's right about that.
And he could just promise, like, they know they've voted for politicians that never fulfilled their promise, but they saw this guy who was an outsider who said exactly the thing that they wanted, and even though they knew in the back of their mind, I'm not going to get this promise fulfilled, they're still like, at least this one's saying exactly, because even the other Republican politicians were saying we're going to bring jobs back, but Trump was belligerent and offensive and insulting, so he would insult the people that they insult. It's like, yes, so he's definitely on my side because he doesn't like the Chinese trade deals and stuff like that.
There's only one way to actually do that, to bring those jobs back. And this is a plan I've been working on for a long time. I got majored in political science. This is kind of like policies, like, sort of my thing. Like, you have to enforce federal sales tax on all business that trades in America. Or not sales tax, excuse me. Federal minimum wage on all business that trades in America. And I'm not saying like a $15 minimum wage sort of thing. I'm saying this is how you price China out of the consumer goods market. If you establish that.
So explain that deep.
So, like, basically, like, right, if you say that, like, if you're trading goods in America, goods and services, you have to pay your workers X amount of dollars, no matter where your factory is located. Doesn't matter if it's in Beijing. It doesn't matter if it's in Shanghai. You have to pay them a living wage, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, $7.25. We can even keep it at $7.25 an hour.
And
that would be enough to fuck
tomorrow.
China and
end it tomorrow, because it's not 7 cents and 25 microcents.
Now, granted, you won't be able to get iPhones for, you know, a couple $100 or a finance plan. It'll be expensive as fuck. But you know what? You also won't have Foxconn workers jumping out of the building, killing themselves because they're slaves. The whole global economic system that puts America in this position as the eternal consumer. We are just these office people who push paper around, and that's the ideal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we work on this like sort of like decentralized online platform. We're all, you know, like
it's an assembly line.
Exactly,
it's
all it is,
assembly line.
and it's just an assembly line to shuffle currency into our pockets so we can keep these businesses afloat.
Yep.
Because they can crank out the next dumb fucking ka-chung fucking good, and we're gonna keep buying it.
Yeah. How many iPhones do we need?
Yeah, literally. I
bought a shittier version of like to get off my phone. I got a shittier version of a phone, and this phone has more capability than I could have ever imagined when I was in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
That was not that long ago. Like, you have a room full of typewriters, and those were amazing.
My grandmother
technologies.
made this typewriter.
Yeah, your grandmother made that typewriter. I'm imagining in America.
Yeah, in a factory in right
a factory in
outside Hartford.
America,
Yep.
and that helped people write ideas, and it helps you write scripts and shit like that. Like it's
Scripts,
you have
jokes,
a connection.
yeah.
And like, I know there's like people are gonna say, but it's like, oh, I want things for cheap. Like, how do you think these like lower income people can afford these products? But it's like, here's the reality. I don't think we should. I had a joke about this actually, that we don't deserve the technology we have. Because there are people that not even like the hardware. We don't deserve the software, because there's so many people who put in so many, like, software developers are like notoriously exploited workers because they work super long hours to debug, and they have deadlines and investors
people, yeah.
and startups and this and that and the other thing. And these softwares have so much genius in them. And that's another reason they can keep stealing our data, is because we can't understand a quarter of a 1% of a thousandth of what's going on with this shit.
Yeah.
You don't understand a line of code. Why do you deserve to be on Tinder? It's fucking stupid.
Yeah, literally.
Like, when they say learn to code to coal miners, we should be saying that to fucking incels. Like, if you want to figure out, like, you know how many fucking nerds it took for you to be able to track your calories and go on a run and, like, go find gay guys at a truck stop, like, that are 13 meters away from you. It's like,
you don't need an app for
the
that.
amount of, it's just like, my biggest concern with the acceleration of capitalism is the separation of a product from its consumer.
Yeah.
Because the most obvious example is food. You know what I mean? We used to hunt our own food. We used to gather our own food. And if we didn't, we would know the person who did. And if we didn't, we knew the person we traded from who did. And now it just gets further and further.
You go to Stop and Shop. You don't know where
I've
the
never
fucking
seen an
cow came
avocado in
from.
the wild.
No.
I've never seen a kumquat or like a pluellen or there's a pluot, which is a plum and an apricot mixed together.
Jesus Christ.
Really delicious. But
how about those massive fucking strawberries? You ever seen wild strawberries, wild raspberries?
Yeah.
Motherfuckers are tiny.
I know. But here's the thing, is like, even if you forget the genetic modification, it's like, if someone bred those strawberries in their family for generations to make the biggest strawberries that they've ever seen, but at least I know it comes from somewhere, and I understand you can't have mom and pop everything. I understand with the advancement of capitalism, you're going to have some kind of conglomeratization, some just for ease of use. Like, it's just be easier than having super inconsistent product all over the place.
Yeah.
Standardization is important, and I can see it, but it just gets to a point where it's just not okay anymore.
Maybe because
where it's just destructive to our society.
It becomes almost authoritarian in the sense of like, this is how it is, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Any change, like look at how the fossil fuel industry controls the development of fucking new technologies and energy. Yeah. Like I mean, any change, any deviation from the norm is fucking with our shit. Like look at the cab companies when Uber started becoming a thing, right? They're all trying to, like, we paid for all these licenses and medals, and like we got to. It's like, fuck you. They figured out a better way to provide your service.
And then now California exiled Uber from their borders because they're not treating their employees right. It's like, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm also not going to believe that this isn't some union-related bullshit, because they were still paying taxes, and those employees pay taxes, and it's just like...
And you pick your own schedule. That's so...
Yeah,
like,
and not only you pick your own schedule, you pick your own fucking job. Like,
yeah,
that
literally.
was such a good side gig for people, and now they just can't do it. Like, you're taking away opportunities. If these people aren't the ones who complain. I mean, you're getting your liberal friends who sit in mansions, swirl martinis, and talk about how, like, these Uber people are being taken... It's like immigrants who just freshly rose to the... like... What happens
it's not fair that the commoners have to drive around and...
I know, and that drive us to our meetings and our boardroom meetings and our but here's the thing is, like, Joey Diaz talks about immigrant mentality a lot, and I love the idea of that, because America is opportunity. Like, that's all America's ever been, is opportunity. It's opportunity for the fucking pilgrims to get away from their, like, sexless Puritans and get to start fucking and sucking their wives the way they want to in the light of Christ. And it's an opportunity for so many immigrant waves to, like, start a new life here. Like, So for instance,
My family did. They came over here in the
dude.
60s.
So
like,
my Malaysian friend, he was telling me that like back in Malaysia, like people in order to be successful have to be corrupt. That he is a very smart guy and he can apply himself and do really good shit. But if he needs to get anywhere, that place has been so government and
Yep.
corporate corrupted that you can't be an honest and prosperous person there. Whereas in America, you can produce a company that's moral. You can start a company that employs people and interfaces with its community in a moral sense.
yeah, definitely.
Many companies do that. That's what small business is. What literally every restaurant is.
Yep.
And then it's like you get some corporate overlords, but it's like, but that's the thing about restaurants too. It's like I'm not worried about Chili's taking over the restaurant scene
Yeah.
because there's something beautiful about artistic companies. Like food is an art. It's a, you know, even if it's a greasy spoon diner, it's like someone's idea and someone's vision into that dish. And I like those. I like the restaurant industry and clubs and things like that because it's hard to corporatize without you immediately knowing that it tastes different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's like I'm not worried that Chili's is going to take over the whole market of like, you know, Mexican grills in like Texas or whatever. I'm not worried that like Carrabba's is going to somehow like put a mom and pop Italian shop in like Long Island out of business.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's some things you can't duplicate.
But
what I am worried about,
the government putting them out of business.
Exactly. And that's the thing is they were struggling. It's like that guy who told that joke. He's like, don't you love when you watch a deli that's been open for 47 years just shut its doors? Like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
That
Who
was
hilarious.
that? It was like a guest. I forgot. It was Haley's friend. But yeah, man, I forgot.
That
his
wasn't
name.
Joe, was it? No,
No,
it was
Joe-
Chris. His
Joe
name was Chris.
Bailey or something. Yeah, yeah, some other guy. But
Very, very fucking. The guy who sang, right?
yeah,
Really funny fucking
hilarious, good. Like unrelenting force, just like
Yes,
didn't
yeah.
stop. But
The energy.
I try to stay optimistic, right?
Mhm.
I always, when I was a kid, I was raised to expect another shoe to drop, and it's like
Same.
life is a struggle. You know, shit is gonna happen, and I mourn for these businesses, but I see from our perspective, like when we're doing open mics and shit, how they're holding on, and I see how the joy in their eyes when we like, I'm not gonna say any names because people fucking, they're like, oh, you're overcapacity. No, fucking, it's like people just going to patronize businesses that like they love and they support, and it's just like if they're cool and there's relationships, like our business is comedy, and right now we get a free space because we support them with our money when it comes to like we have a good faith understanding of buying food and drinks and things like that to support their business, and then they support our art
by letting us be there.
and it brings more people in. It's just this beautiful symbiosis. That's capitalism at its finest.
I agree.
Open mics are like what capitalism was meant to be.
It's what's the fucking Machiavelli thing? The Mandrake. Or no, I guess it's really like I mean, it's all the same thing, right? Public vice equals private, or private vice equals public virtue is his thing. And if you look at like the iteration of that in economics, is the invisible hand, like everyone acting in their own
Adam
self-interest.
Smith's favorite shit, man.
Yeah,
It's also just like if left unimpeded, we would mostly make the right decisions.
there's a great story about that. I don't know if you've heard. Do you know Dwight Eisenhower was the president of a university after he was the president of the U.S.?
Okay.
So while he was there, they were undergoing a renovation. They built a whole bunch of new buildings, this whole new section of the campus, and they're having a meeting to decide on the pathways between the buildings. So they had a bunch of architectural firms like pitch designs, and they had like, oh, we're gonna have these and a fountain here and this winding little thing. And Eisenhower is just sitting there through all these presentations. He goes, "This is stupid. Like, we leave the buildings up, let the kids walk to class." For the first, couple months, they're going to wear the most direct path in the grass anyway, because that's where they're going to walk. We'll put the paths there.
Dude.
And that's what he did.
I love that idea, man, because it reminds me of this hilarious like social experiment video I saw in New York of herding people with traffic cones. Because people in New York and in the cities have been conditioned to respect the traffic cone boundary.
Yeah.
And it shows that if you what they would do is they started a funnel, right? There wasn't even construction, no scaffolding or anything. They just made imagine a funneling of people from a sidewalk into a narrower space through traffic cone.
Like a single file, yeah.
So they started out wide, and there was a time lapse of them slowly moving in the traffic cones. And people, it's like if you swapped it out for sheep being herded by like corgis into like a pen, it's the exact same thing. Because even if you don't see danger, you respect the authority of a bright orange reflective thing, and it makes me think of that because it's like, given the opportunity, like I understand regulation, things like that. You need to keep a safe workspace. Things can be dangerous, but to that effect, people do find the path of least resistance and things like that. Like And that's why the COVID shit particularly pisses me off, because you're staring adults in the eyes and saying you don't know how to be safe.
You don't know how to wash your hands.
You don't know how to wash your hands. You don't know how to cover your mouth. But here's the thing about America. What's beautifully disturbing, which is that we love to solve problems, but if you tell us how, we're going to do the exact opposite.
Yep.
Even if part of how you told us to solve the solution is how you do it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, so we understand our community better than you do, and which is another issue I take, which is governors governing over a whole state, even though Detroit is not the same as like Lansing.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's also not only that, it's unconstitutional in most states. The way like Ned Lamont extended the executive order well past his constitutional
and you saw like
limit.
What's happening with Cuomo about lying about the numbers.
Yep.
But here's the thing: is it's like
they're autocrats.
Given, and we're starting to see this more in the southern states, particularly Florida. Given the opportunity to make your own decisions about behavior, your citizens will choose exactly what they deem their community to be responsible for. And this is a beautiful thing, because it doesn't necessarily mean wearing masks. It doesn't necessarily mean social distancing. You just have been used to telling people to do that for so long that you think that's the only answer.
Yeah.
But you know what Miami says? It's that Miami says we're a population of young, horny, beefed up,
coked up,
vitamin filled, sunshine loving, healthy people. We choose herd immunity. We choose to club and fuck and suck and go to the beach and just, there's a social contract in Miami that once you enter, you will get COVID. But don't worry, we'll take care of you, because everyone pretty much has it or had it, and we'll figure this out.
And look at the numbers difference in there. Dude. California, it's almost identical.
And it's like,
what? They both did shitty.
Here's another thing too that disturbs me is like, especially in New York, because now we're getting like deep into winter. It's probably like the 5th or fucking 6th snowstorm that we've had. It's like, you've had the worst, the strongest, lockdowns and procedures, and what has it gotten you? What has it gotten you? You have a cluster of asocial, depressed citizens who lost all purpose in life, and we're barely holding on because of the financial housing market, and we're driving Uber or trying to keep their dream alive with a gig, have been smashed to pieces against a fucking rock wall. And it's like, for what? For what? Like, what have you gained? Are your numbers any better than anywhere? Maybe the idea that this shit is a pandemic, so pretty much a lot of people are going to get it. But here's the beautiful thing about viruses too. By their nature, they're very balanced. You know, and I'm not a fucking virologist. I'm just saying, like, there's some common sense rules about virology, which is like, if something is extremely contagious, it cannot be extremely deadly.
Yes, yeah.
And if something is extremely deadly, it can't be extremely contagious.
Because they die before they're fucking. They can
the
spread
host
it.
needs to carry on the virus, like Ebola. Extremely deadly, but also was transferred through fecal oral contamination, blood, things that are not in a well-run hygienic society easily transmissible, which is why.
Speak for yourself, man. I love fucking a dude in the ass till he bleeds and then sucking his dick.
Yeah, dude. I love sucking the shitty blood off of my boyfriend's cock. But that's a great point too. Is about like AIDS, the AIDS crisis in the 90s. Fauci was part of that one too. Yep. And there was
did a great job.
Amazing, terrified. 1 in 5 people will get it by the year 1990, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Like, so here's the thing: is it disproportionately affects the gay community because of the lifestyle, like butt sex. There was a lot of intravenous drug use because, like, gay communities, like, people who flocked to New York to that
love
were
shooting meth.
Yeah, well, like shooting up like these communities. It's like, that's just what it was at the time.
Yeah,
and they did not acknowledge it. They were in like the swing of like, we don't ask, don't tell. This was Clinton. It's like, we can't discriminate against gays. But then at a certain point, the gays were begging for like help in their community specifically, because they were spreading help over everyone. And
ACT UP was that whole fucking
but they were like, please help us. I mean, it's killing us, and you're not doing anything because you're not acknowledging the fact that it affects us.
Yeah. Rock Hudson with the whole fucking thing with Reagan, right?
And it's like, it's not discrimination against us, it's discrimination for us. Like, discrimination isn't a bad thing. You have to discriminate which groups are being affected and help. But if you just think, oh, it's affecting everyone, oh, it's affecting, for COVID, it's affecting like kids and teenagers the same, and so
old
we have
people and diabetics.
Yeah, we have to take all the kids out of school. We have to turn them all into asocial homeschooled kids.
The suicide rate among kids is fucking crazy through the roof.
Also, like, I was listening to a podcast too, and like parents yelling at the kids to get off the phone. He's like, then how can I have friends?
There's no.
You're telling me I should be terrified to go visit my friends because I'm going to kill my grandma, and now you're telling me I'm depressed because I'm on my phone. No, I'm depressed because I only can go on my phone to see my friends.
Literally.
And like, I really admire these kids like when I see on social media, like on TikTok and like all these compilation shit, like trying to make the best of the situation, but they are holding on for dear life. Like there was a video of this baby who's like celebrating his first birthday, and it's like, clap your hands if you're an overstimulated quarantine baby because you haven't seen anybody for a year for your entire life.
Those kids are gonna be fucked,
dude. I mean, there are horror stories. I studied childhood development in school because I went to a childhood development teaching college for my psychology degree, and I was learning horror stories about orphans being left alone in like Ukrainian orphanages with just staring at a white wall, and like their brains
fuck them up.
Their brains don't have grooves because there's no behavior or stimulus.
Yeah.
And so they're scared of everything. They're like, and our public school system is already fucked up anyways. But at least it gave. And people are saying like, oh, that's just because the parents want like babysitters, and it's like, yeah, you've given us no other option. You're a government that does not support parenthood. And but will like pay us out if we produce more kids and don't have a job. But if we do have a job and want to work for it, like you're kind of just like, well, you're shit of luck. You know, paternity, maternity leave is not necessary and it's not legally supported. And like Connecticut, where we live, vacation is not legally binding. You don't have to have vacation. The only labor law in Connecticut for workers is that if you were a full-time employee, you are guaranteed 32 hours of work.
It's so fucked
every
up.
week. So like where I work, I have to save my vacation to use for when we shut down because they don't want the liability of not offering us 32 hours of work.
You fucking serious?
So the only reason they give us vacation is so that they can take it back. So
oh
to
my
say
god.
Like,
that's fucked up. I hate that shit.
And you can't even like a libertarian would say, okay, you're not guaranteeing. I would take the not guaranteeing me 32 hours of work if I can use my vacation. Like I'll write a waiver that says I waive my right to work this week if I can get my vacation whenever I want it.
Yeah.
But they don't because they're treating us like little babies and little kids. Like you need to be told how to behave.
Yeah.
And like,
well, the state loves doing that because it enforces predictability and it makes their jobs functional.
Yeah, they don't. This is what the quote I was trying to tell you about earlier about Killer Mike, because I saw one of his posts and he loves posting about black leaders that like made a genuine change in America. And I'm killing myself that like that's not, I don't know the other guy's name, but Malcolm X was one of them. And the caption that he said, and just the part of the caption that I loved where he says, because these people fought to remind the government that they should fear their people and not the other way around. Because it's
like Marcus Garvey, was it?
I gotta look it up because now I'm guilty. I feel guilty for not knowing because I just watched the movie Malcolm X, so I hate white women now, or at least I have a reason to hate white women now. But no, here's the quote. It said Malcolm and Pinto. I don't know who he was talking about specifically, but that's the guy right there. And the quote was comrades and company, conspirators for the proletariat, killed 3 days apart, killed because they believe government should fear the people and not the other way around. God bless the dead, God bless the living, God damn the enemy. That's so true, man.
It is.
And he always spells America like America, KKK. Yeah. And that's so true, man, because it's like, you know what? I have a theory too, and this might be like a divergence from what I just got to text my girlfriend that I'm still recording because we've been talking for a while.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Nice.
maybe we put this one in the can. We've been talking for a while, and I love talking to you, but I could be here literally all night, and I kind of want to just chill. But this was a great. We went on. This
was a lot of fun, man.
There was a lot of gusto behind that. This was our first episode of Can We Be Friends? Join us later. We're just gonna keep recording shit because it's fun talking with you, man.
Talk about politics, conspiracy theories.
Yeah, man. I gotta get into it. I'm gonna bring notes so we can keep checking stuff off and come back to it. I'm gonna show you some of that footage afterwards.
Yeah.
I might cut some in like as the credits are rolling here.
Definitely. I'll see if I can find any of my pictures. And also
yes, that would be dope. Yeah. Okay. So that's the first episode. We don't know what we're doing. We're just gonna keep figuring it out.
Thanks for tuning in.
I've been Gage Morrow.
I'm Mike Massaro.
See you guys next time.
Take care.
Peace.